Chapter 371. That sunlight mushroom healed her injuries? Why? Zhu Yao was a little dumbfounded. She instinctively sensed her body, only to realize that there were no abnormalities. Logically speaking, that sunlight mushroom was formed from resentment. Even if she possessed world-favorable impression ability, resentment was something without intelligence, so it was impossible for it to have any goodwill towards her. And what was that light that flew into her body earlier? It couldn't be resentment, otherwise, not only would her injuries have been healed, she would have turned into a pit. Dongfang girlie, are you all right? Nangong Cheng looked at her worriedly. Zhu Yao shook her head. Yu Ying and Yu Yin walked over as well. Initially, they wanted to continue taking her pulse, only to realize that there wasn't a single injury on her body, and even the bloodstains had disappeared. Currently, not a single plant was left on the grassland. Even the corn cannon that revealed its sharp yellow tip earlier had returned to the ground. Are there any abnormalities? Yu Yin glanced at his stupid disciple. In the end, he was still worried and took her pulse. I don't know what's going on either. Zhu Yao shrugged and explained the situation earlier. Yu Yin frowned and clenched his fists. What do you plan to do? I believe that the plants here are divided into different regions. The further we go, the harder it will be. Zhu Yao solemnly said, we can't use mystic arts right now, and Little Yellow and Little Teal are injured as well. It'll probably be hard for us to make it to the light of guidance. It's all our fault. Nangong Cheng's face was filled with self-blame. We're the ones who dragged you guys down. Why don't you guys continue forward? Fellow Taoist Zhonggu and I will recuperate here. Once we've recovered, we'll catch up to you guys. Little Yellow is right. Zhonggu Lu nodded as well. Only the three of you have hopes of becoming gods. Our current situation, what nonsense are you spouting? Zhu Yao did not like hearing those words. Who said I'm going to leave you guys behind? We're all together on the first floor, and even if we were to split up, now isn't the time. But Nangong Cheng frowned and turned to look ahead. We don't know what will appear up ahead either. Our injuries are too heavy, and we're just burdens. Even if it's a burden, it's something we willingly carried. Zhu Yao squatted down and solemnly said, don't worry, I won't leave you guys behind. Even if I have to carry you, I will carry you there. Nangong Cheng was stunned as he exchanged glances with Zhonggu Lu. Little sister Dongfang, you're really a different kind of immortal cultivator. Not to mention the usually emotionless immortal cultivators. Even they, the demon immortals, when faced with such a situation, would feel a chill run down their spines. They would leave them behind. Not to mention that they were on the top floor, where danger lurked everywhere. It was said that the great Tao was heartless. From the moment they set foot on this path, they were already used to killing and betrayal. The longer they lived, the less they valued the so-called friendship. He didn't expect that at this time, someone would say that they would carry him there even if they had to carry him. Let's recuperate here for now. We'll set off once your injuries are better. Zhu Yao patted on Nangong Huang's shoulder. There shouldn't be any danger around here, but she looked up 200 meters away. As long as we cross the boundary of the sunflowers, I'm afraid a new wave of plants will appear. Yu Yin, however, frowned and pulled onto her hand. You've already made your decision. What he said was a definite sentence, not a question. Zhu Yao chuckled. Master, I have an idea. I want to take a look at the boundary of the sunflowers by myself. Nonsense. Yu Yan's expression turned cold. That place will definitely be more dangerous. How are you going to deal with it alone? Master, I feel that those plants don't want to harm me. She touched her healing chest. His frown deepened. If that's the case, why were you injured earlier? Although he knew that his disciple's physique was abnormal, in the situation earlier, those corn and peas did not have the slightest intention of avoiding her attack. What he said made a lot of sense. Actually, I'm talking about those sunflowers and mushrooms. Master, you should be able to tell as well, right? Those two plants collect yang. I'm talking about the formation cores. They're the key to the appearance of all the plants. That's why they were intentionally planted so far away. However, I feel that only those two plants are friendly to me. They must be different from the other plants. Even if they're formed from resentment, There must be something more to them. Perhaps I can talk to them. Yu Yin was still frowning. Evidently, he did not agree to such a risk. We don't have any other choice. We can't just sit here and wait for death. More importantly, she felt that there was something strange about that Jid sound. In the past, only wood spirits would do that. However, the wood spirit was far away in the wilderness and it had already taken human form, so how could it possibly appear here? Nangong Huangzhong and Gu Lu recuperated for 2 whole days before the injuries on their bodies were mostly healed. Although her master had already agreed for Zhu Yao to be the vanguard this time and enter the next realm alone, Zhu Yao's heart was filled with regret. However, they were still guarding the border, in case any problems arose and they could provide help in time. Zhu Yao took a deep breath, and only then did she walk out of the place where the sunflower had appeared. However, after taking a few steps forward, the ground began to move. The people behind him instantly tensed up and subconsciously tightened their grip on the swords in their hands. A moment later, with a pu-pu sound, as expected, a sunflower appeared. However, it was not 100 meters away, but had directly popped out next to Zhu Yao. The moment the gigantic flower plate opened up, 2 eyes blinked as they looked at Zhu Yao. As though it was stunned for a moment, it suddenly let out what seemed to be a joyful sound. Gee. Zhu Yao stiffened and waved her hands at it. Hi. Gee. The sunflower let out a doubtful sound, as though it did not understand her words. Zhu Yao had no choice but to switch to the Ji language at the last moment and mimicked it. Ji. That sunflower instantly responded with incomparable joy. Ji. Ji. There's nothing wrong with this reply, right? Hence, the conversation between the human and sunflower began to develop in a strange direction. G. Wait a minute. Just what in the world was she doing? Why did they have to compete on who had more GS? Hey? Amazing. Nangong Cheng, who did not know the truth, had a look of worship. Dongfang Girly, you can actually understand the sunflower's words. Everyone. They really wanted to break off all ties with him. Zhu Yao found her mother tongue at the last moment. Though she said that she was going to talk about life with the sunflower, just where was she supposed to start? I say, sunflower. Gee. Though, the sunflower straightened its thick and sturdy stem, looking as though it was being obedient. Just what are you? Also, do you know me? Gee. It tilted its head and let out a long sound. Suddenly, it stretched out a gigantic leaf and wrapped it around her wrist. It then called out in a crisp voice. Lord. Lord again? What's Lord? Why are you calling me that? The sunflower began to twist left and right, as though it was shouting out a slogan. Lord, Lord. Sunshine, sunshine. Lord, Lord. With every twist, it would shout out. Like bamboo shoots after a rain, even more sunflowers began to sprout out from the ground. They lined up on both sides of her, as though they were welcoming her, and began to twist as well. In an instant, the entire field reverberated. Lord, sunshine. Such voices, such orderly movements, and such unified chants made it seem as though they were conducting a military parade. Zhu Yao was a little dumbfounded. She seemed to have received an incredible welcome. The number of sunflowers increased, and they were spreading forward, opening up a path that directly led to the boundary of the light of guidance. She instantly felt as though she had entered the sunflower country for a friendly visit. This was the true green VIP passage. Just what was she going to do? Or should she go? Or should she go? The 4-man operation team at the back was stunned as well. What was with this harmonious scene? Dongfang Girly, Nangong Cheng shouted out. Just what is this? I don't know either. Zhu Yao shook her head. These sunflowers don't have high spiritual intellect, and most likely, they can only move based on their instincts. I don't know if I can convince them either. Master. Zhu Yao looked at Yu Yin at the side. You've never eaten a medicinal pellet, so their hatred towards you should be the smallest. Why don't you come over and take a look first? Yu Yin nodded. He glanced at his surroundings, and then, he took a step forward. Seemingly in an instant, The joyful sunflowers which were still cheering earlier instantly quietened down. They turned to look at Yu Yin in unison. Zhu Yao's heart could not help but clench. However, in the next moment, those sunflowers once again turned their heads and continued to twist their Lord Sunshine words. Yu Yin safely walked to Zhu Yao's side. As expected, these plants would only react towards people who had taken too many medicinal pellets. Next was Yu Ying. Different from Yu Yan's disregard, when Yu Ying walked over, all of the sunflowers leaned back as though they were disgusted. Zhu Yao guessed that it was probably because of the devilic aura around his body, which was why they would subconsciously avoid him. Only Nangong Huang and Little Teal were left. Zhu Yao had no choice but to raise her guard. Different from Yu Yin and Yu Ying, these plants were formed from resentment of plants. The reason why the sunflowers ignored them was because they had never eaten any medicinal pellets and did not have any hatred towards them in the first place. But they, Nangong Huang, walk over first. Zhu Yao solemnly said, "Be careful." Naturally, Nangong Chung could see the situation as well. These plants were most likely coming for the two of them. In an instant, the guilt in his heart grew deeper. If not for the two of them, the three of them might have arrived long ago. The moment he thought of this, he could no longer take a step forward no matter what he did. Dongfang girly, why don't the two of you leave first? If one of them could pass, then so be it. The hell? Zhu Yao really wanted to curse out. Why are you still spouting nonsense now? Are you a man or not? Chapter 372. The hell? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at him. Don't play with me right now, all right? Since we've already come this far, it's already too late to disband. You'd better tighten your skin and hurry to the light of guidance in one breath. If you want to stay behind and mess around with Zhonggu Lu, no way. The two of you don't have a future. Zhonggu Lu. Why did he still get shot even though he was lying so far away? Nangong Cheng's eyes reddened. Mama's egg, Dongfang girly, at such a touching moment. Can't you speak properly? They're innocent. He turned to look at Yu Yin and Yu Ying and sighed. It seemed like they really weren't going to leave them behind. Taking a deep breath, Nangong Chung gritted his teeth and then stepped into the new territory. Seemingly at the instant his feet touched the ground reacted. With a series of rumbling sounds, it seemed like something was about to break out from the ground. Zhu Yao was betting on a cucumber. That definitely wasn't a sunflower, but some kind of weapon of mass destruction. The sunflowers that were still warm like little suns earlier suddenly stopped shouting as well. They looked towards Nangong Chung in unison, though they were still blinking their eyes. Zhu Yao could see the glint of hatred in their eyes. Crap. It seemed like it was going to turn into zombies versus plants again. What to do? What to do? These plants were going to go berserk. In a moment of desperation, Zhu Yao grabbed onto the sunflower's flower head next to her. Calm down, dear. Give me some face. Suddenly, the tremors of the ground really stopped. Her face sure is big. The bright yellow flower head in her hand slowly blinked, and in the next moment, the entire flower head was suffused with a hint of strange red. Is she being shy? Please, you're just a flower, hey? The hell? Why did even the stem turn red as well? Do you have to be so human? Wait a minute. She remembered. Plants seem to use flowers to spread their pollination and reproduce. Then the flowers were their unspeakable parts. She suddenly felt unwell. Her vision blurred. The few sunflowers closest to her suddenly bent down and moved their flower heads closer to her. The little eyes on them blinked happily, as though they were saying, "Touch me, touch me." She wanted some time alone. Seeing as more and more sunflowers were moving towards her, in order to build a good relationship with them, Zhu Yao was really afraid that they would continue to go berserk if she were to reject them. But to the big flower plate, she couldn't bring herself to do it. He could only settle for the next best thing. He silently pulled up one of their leaves and shook it as if he was shaking hands. This was considered as a greeting. But even so, why are you guys blushing? Aren't you guys sunflowers? Hey, what a nice sunflower. Lowering her head with a bashful face. What the hell was that? And the tree with its leaves covering its face. The resentment underground required sunflowers to absorb sunlight in order to transform into various weapons that could harm people. However, yin and yang countered each other. Light was the same as spiritual energy and divine energy in the first place. It was the purest energy in the world. Though sunlight could not eliminate resentment, it should be able to suppress it at the very least. This was most likely the reason why the place she woke up in was completely dark. Furthermore, no matter if it was the shadows formed from resentment or the plants here, in reality, none of them could compare to the resentment she saw in the underworld back then. Back then, she was already a demigod, yet she was still helpless against resentment. It seemed like the yang energy of the world was suppressing these resentment. In the beginning, she had treated all of this as a retarded setting similar to the 5 child flags and the 9 palace grid. She treated this as an upgraded version of Plants vs. Zombies in reality, so she did not think too deeply into it. However, this was after all the final stage to become a god, so it was impossible to just casually create a game. Furthermore, there was a fatal weakness like the sunflowers. Adding the fact that yin and yang countered each other, why did the sunflowers here need to absorb sunlight in order to summon other of their kind? It couldn't be because of the setting of the game. Then, it could only be. Zhu Yao's heart sank as she suddenly recalled her master's words. The laws of the world. Could it be that the laws here were yin and yang countered each other? Due to the restrictions of the laws, these resentment could only take form after sunflowers absorbed sunlight. However, sunlight could suppress resentment. The reason why the sunflowers were friendly to her was because of the sunlight in their bodies. She was so familiar with the wood spirit, and she had even placed it into her divine sense. It was naturally understandable for these sunflowers, which were also plants, to feel close to her. Adding that back when she was in Yiling's dungeon and turned into a tree demon, she could hear the words of trees, and those trees were strangely friendly to her as well. Furthermore, it seemed like the demons with lower cultivation levels treated her better. On the other hand, demonic beasts and demons like Nangong Chong and Xingu Lu, who had already become deities, especially those who entered the Lightning Divine Tower, did not have that kind of affinity and could only be treated as normal people or friends. It was the same when she went to the demonic immortal continent back then. Though the red and yellow demonic immortals she met at the start seemed to have a very good impression of her, they still sent her to prison due to their principles. They were completely different from those demonic beasts in the lower realm who only wanted to protect her and act cute. Those demonic beasts treated her well. Rather than saying it was a world-favorable impression, it was more like an instinct, a psychological cue that could not be resisted, and they would subconsciously treat her well. This kind of instinctive cue would make the sunflowers, which had their resentment suppressed and possessed a little bit of intelligence, release goodwill towards her. Could this be the reason why these sunflowers liked her? But why did they call her Lord? This was something she could not figure out. Seeing that the light of guidance was already approaching, Zhu Yao's hands were already numb from holding on to them. She could barely feel her own hands, let alone lift them up. Her master, who was the closest to her, could still hold onto her hands in the beginning to help move them around a little to alleviate the soreness. However, every single time, she would be met with opposition from the plants. They would always push her master away when she wasn't paying attention, or intentionally use their leaves to block him. They made it seem as though the two of them were having an affair, and they had to cross several sunflower mountains before they could meet. In the end, even Yu Yin himself had run out of strength. In the end, she was no longer the one who took the initiative. Rather, with every step she took, the sunflowers on her left and right would automatically stretch out their leaves to wrap around her hands. This could be considered as having shaken hands. Her heart was so tired. Mama's egg, who wants to try holding hands for 3 days and 3 nights. It was still all right in the beginning, but the number of sunflowers behind her grew. From afar, apart from the one in the middle that was intentionally left empty, as far as the eye could see, it was a field of sunflowers. It was a field of dazzling gold, and it could basically blind her eyes. Yet, only the 2 rows of sunflowers at the side were able to hold her hands. As for those that could not, they could only blink their eyes and look at her with resentful looks. Hey, hey, hey. Don't turn white, hey. Even if you can't hold a sunflower, don't mutate. And the one that's lying on the ground, you planted it too far away. Even if you lie on the ground, you won't be able to hold my hand. Don't waste your energy. The passion of the people of the sunflower country really made her, who was from the human country, speechless. Let us contribute to the friendly relationship between the sunflower kingdom and the sunflower kingdom. I'll hold. I'll hold. I'll hold. Zhu Yao's repetition was extremely meaningful and effective. Their journey was actually smooth, and they were about to reach the vicinity of the light of guidance. Of course, there were a few small interludes, but most of them were problems with the distance. The distance between Zhonggu Lu and Nangong Huang was very subtle. It was not good if they were too close or too far away. Turning his head to look, he saw that Yu Yin seemed to be blocked outside a transparent barrier, unable to take a step forward. How is this possible? Zhonggu Lu turned around to look at his surroundings seriously as well, and then paced back and forth a few times. There aren't any formations or barriers here? Zhu Yao's heart clenched as she inspected the surroundings as well. Indeed, there weren't any traces of mystic arts at all. Just why is that? Because I'm a demon. Yu Yin lowered his head slightly, a look of disappointment on his face as he muttered with a hint of self-mockery. I never had the right to become a god. Zhu Yao's heart clenched. The others also fell silent. There must be another way. Zhu Yao stroked his head. Don't worry, I told you that I won't abandon anyone. Only then did Yu Yin raise his head. His eyes seemed to be flashing with starlight. A moment later, he carefully said, If you become a god, will you still return? Of course. She nodded as a matter of fact. I'm only here to push down the tower, not to become. Halfway through her words, she was stunned. Wait a minute. Push down the tower? Something instantly flashed through her mind, and she did not manage to grasp it. Just as she was about to ponder, a green vine suddenly broke out from the ground and appeared right in front of them. Like a hemp rope, it split into two. It charged over. Sis! Yu Yin was startled. He instinctively pulled Zhu Yao and rolled on the ground, dodging that vine. The vine instantly split into two, sweeping towards them from the left and right. One of them headed towards her and Yu Yin, but was instantly turned into ashes by the divinic energy Yu Yin summoned. The other vine, however, directly struck Zhonggu Lu at the side, sending him flying. He was instantly sent flying a dozen meters back, landing in the midst of the sunflowers that had yet to completely disappear. Zhonggu Lu! Zhu Yao exclaimed. She wasn't on the grass right now. Almost at the instant he landed, 5 cob cannons immediately appeared on the grass. 5 overlapping aiming formations instantly appeared beneath Zhonggu Lu's feet. Hurry and run! Zhu Yao shouted with all her might. She wanted to charge out and save him, but it was already too late. 5 gigantic cobs had already been fired. Even though Zhonggu Lu desperately ran out, he was still struck by the 5 cobs. 5 loud booms resounded, and in an instant, dust and white popcorn were flying everywhere. Zhonggu Lu was already lying on the ground with his entire body covered in blood. His legs were already a bloody mess, and his upper chest already had a huge hole. His human form was almost unrecognizable. Ha 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 ha! A few dozen feet away, a sinister and maniacal laughter resounded. A person whose entire body was wrapped in thick tree bark was currently standing a few meters away. Her entire body was blood red, and the tree trunk would occasionally drip with black and red blood. The face at the heart of the tree no longer looked human, and only 2 black holes remained. It looked extremely terrifying. However, everyone present could still recognize her with a single glance. Mei Shui! The hell? Why is she still alive? Brother Zhonggu Lu! Nangong Cheng's eyes reddened. He immediately wanted to charge out and save him, but Zhu Yao quickly grabbed onto him. What are you doing? Let me go. Calm down. Calm down my ass. He instantly flared up and immediately threw a palm strike at her, wanting to push her hand away. I'm going to save him. Zhu Yao immediately stepped on his feet and scolded while he was in pain. Those plants already have a lot of hatred for you in the first place. Are you trying to kill him faster by going out? If you want to die, Don't freaking drag us down with you. Nangong Chung was startled, and only then did he calm down. If he went out, there would probably be 5 more cobs appearing. Master, Yuing. Zhu Yao gave the two of them a look, and then ran towards Zhonggu Lu's direction with Yu Yan. Yuing immediately understood as well, and immediately released his devilic energy to cover the sunlight in the sky. As expected, in the next moment, all of the sunflowers lowered their heads, and the reloading speed of the 5 cob cannons slowed down as well. Zhu Yao took this opportunity, and together with her master, they quickly carried Zhonggu Lu, who no longer looked like a human, to the borders. Yuing, hurry. Placing Zhonggu Lu down, Zhu Yao hurriedly pulled Yu Ying to stop his bleeding. He was the only one here who could save him. On the other side, Mei Shui had already gone completely insane. Blood was constantly seeping out from her pair of black holes, yet she still stared straight at them. The hatred in her eyes seemed to want to devour them cleanly. Her laughter grew stranger and stranger. Ha ha ha. I'm this pitiful? What right do you have to become gods? Die. All of you must die. I'll kill you. Nangong Chung raised his weapon and charged towards Mei Shui. However, before he could even approach her, 3 gigantic red man-eating flowers instantly appeared in her surroundings. They were completely different from the ones they encountered before, and were the same as the ones that devoured Mei Shui. He was stunned for a moment. Mei Shui could control these plants? Nangong Huang, come back. Zhu Yao called out to him. She turned to look at Mei Shui, and her expression sank. She is about to be completely devoured by resentment. In essence, she's not much different from those flowers outside. The current her, most likely, doesn't even know who she is. Nangong Chung clenched his fists. After suppressing for a long while, he finally endured the thought of disregarding everything and charging forward to take revenge. He once again turned to look at his good friend on the ground, and his eyes were instantly filled with incomparable pain. Kill. I'll kill all of you. On the other side, Mei Shui was still madly gesticulating, yet her eyes were completely unfocused. Vines extended out from her body, wildly sweeping in all directions as she strangely laughed. Ha ha ha. I'm the favored child of the heavenly Tao. How can I possibly lose? I've never lost before. That's right. I won't lose. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. You're the ones who recklessly obstructed me. Obstructing me means death. Ha 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 ha. She madly laughed for a moment. Suddenly, she looked towards the pure white light of guidance, and her bone-like face began to crack inch by inch. As though she wanted to pull out a smile, she stretched out a withered branch. Light of guidance. I can become a god. I can finally become a god. She suddenly began to crazily move towards the light of guidance. However, she had already completely turned into a plant. The moment she moved, the cracks on her body grew even more severe. However, it was as though she could not feel it at all, as she desperately crawled in. The moment the tree bark and leaves on her body touched the white ground, they immediately disappeared. She desperately crawled in, as though she was peeling off a layer of skin from the plant, dragging out a long trail of blood on the ground. However, she did not stop. Within her pair of black hole-like eyes, there seemed to be too much madness. Not a moment later, her original plant body was peeled off. She had been devoured for too long, and her body had long become one with the resentment. With this peeling, even her skin and bones were peeled off. In just a moment, only a cracked skeleton was left on the ground. However, she was still crawling towards the light of guidance bit by bit. A moment later, that skeleton could no longer hold on, and it began to scatter. At this moment, her entire body solidified, and even her original facial features could be seen. Zhu Yao turned to look at the scattered bones on the ground, especially that black hole-like skull. She then looked towards Mei Shui, who was just a step away from the light of guidance, and let out a long sigh. Just how much of an obsession did she have with becoming a god? She could not even sense that she had already died, and even her soul still wanted to crawl in. Mei Shui had already crawled to the front of the light of guidance. With wild joy in her eyes, she immediately crawled up, and without any hesitation, she walked in. Zhu Yao thought that it would not work. However, she never expected that the white light would grow even brighter. Even Mei Ling, who was only left with her soul, began to slowly rise along with the light. Her face was full of joy, but that smile only lasted for a moment. As she rose higher and higher, the emotions in her eyes became less and less. Not to mention joy, even the look in her eyes when she looked at them did not have a trace of resentment. Zhu Yao's heart trembled as she instantly understood something. Chapter 374. Brother Gu Lu. Nangong Cheng's voice sank. Looking at Zhonggu Lu, whose aura was growing weaker and weaker, he clenched his fists tightly. Zhu Yao's heart rose as well. Though Zhonggu Lu had avoided the center of the cob cannon and was not hit directly, with such a huge impact from the explosion of 5 cob cannons at the same time, it was already a miracle that Zhonggu Lu was still alive. However, his inner core had already been shattered, his primordial spirit had already dispersed, and even his soul was faintly showing signs of leaving his body. His injuries were extremely severe, and even if everyone exhausted their celestial core power, they wouldn't be able to save him, let alone in a situation where they couldn't use celestial power. Yu Ying. Zhu Yao looked at the expressionless Yu Ying at the side. After a closer look, the corner of his brows had indeed sunk a little. Do you have any ideas? Right now, she could only rely on him. Yu Ying raised his head and glanced at her. He then looked at Zhonggu Lu, who was gasping for breath with only his upper body remaining. A moment later, he solemnly said, "There's only one way." What? Nangong Cheng immediately turned to look at him, and his eyes instantly lit up. He reached out to grab his hand excitedly. Daoist friend you have a way to save him. Really? Yu Ying frowned and immediately dodged it. After glaring at him for a moment, he then continued to look at Zhu Yao and said, "The flower deity's body is weak. Now that his primordial spirit has dispersed and his inner core has been destroyed, his soul will leave his body in less than 15 minutes. Unless what?" Zhu Yao asked. A trace of hesitation flashed across his face, and his expression became somewhat apprehensive. A moment later, he gritted his teeth, as if he had made up his mind, and said, "Unless he follows me and becomes a demon." Bedevilment. Everyone was stunned. Even Nangong Cheng had a look of surprise on his face. He said almost reflexively, "No, he's an immortal. How can he? Then I can't help him either." Yu Ying immediately stood up and returned to stand behind Zhu Yao, looking as though he did not care about this at all. Nangong Cheng glanced at the dying Zhonggu Lu on the ground. His fists clenched even tighter. That's right. If he was demonized, Zhonggu Lu could indeed immediately recover under the assistance of devilic energy. But the devil race had always been cruel and murderous, a synonym for evil. The nature of the demon race was to commit all kinds of crimes. They were the public enemies of the 3 realms, be it demons or humans. He did not have the slightest favorable impression of the demon race. Although no one had seen it before, it was an innate sense of disgust that seemed to be imprinted in their blood. Although Yu Ying was of the devil race, they had indeed seen the devil chi that he released. However, he had been helping them along the way, so from the bottom of his heart, he did not see him as an unscrupulous evil demon. But now, he heard that his good friend was about to become a demon. Only then did he truly realize the difference between them. Bedevilment. That meant that Zhonggu Lu would stand against him. Not to mention, devilish energy had always been the darkest thing in the world. He did not dare to imagine if Zhonggu Lu would still be his original self after becoming a devil. There's not much time left, Yu Ying reminded. Zhonggu Lu's aura on the ground had weakened by quite a bit. Nangong Cheng clenched his fists so tightly that his palms began to bleed. His heart was in a mess. Maybe he can be like Mei Shui. His eyes lit up and he said excitedly, "Yes, that's right. He could become a god. Just like Macy just now. She could pass through the light of guidance even though she was only left with her soul. So Brother Gu Lu would definitely be able to as well. I will bring him over right now." As he said that, he immediately crouched down and carried Zhonggu Lu up. Wait a minute. Zhu Yao took a step to the side and blocked his way. Dongfang girly. Nangong Chung grew anxious and solemnly said, "If there's anything, we can talk about it after Brother Gulu becomes a god. If I were you, I wouldn't do that. It's best if we don't approach this light of guidance." Zhu Yao raised her head and looked at the light. Becoming a god might not necessarily be a good thing. What do you mean? Not just Nangong Chung. Everyone else looked towards Zhu Yao. Wasn't their goal in coming here to become a god? Yu Yin took a step forward and looked towards his own disciple. He looked at his disciple. "Did you discover something?" Zhu Yao was silent for a moment, before solemnly saying, "I feel that we might not be able to enter the realm of gods from here. Or should I say, I suspect that this world really has a realm of gods?" Nangong Chung was stunned. "Dongfang girlie, what did you say? Isn't this the light of guidance of the realm of gods?" "This is indeed the light of guidance, but who can be sure that it can guide deities into the realm of gods? I wish to ask all of you a question." Zhu Yao pointed to her surroundings. "Just what kind of place is the realm of gods? What are gods like? Has anyone seen them before? Deities live as long as the heavens and earth. Which of them did not live for hundreds of thousands of years before they could enter the tower? But after so many years, why has no one ever seen the so-called gods? And everything regarding the god race is merely a legend. This is the law of the heavenly Tao," Nangong Chen guessed. "Just like how the people of the divine realm cannot casually descend to the lower realm. Most probably, the people of the realm of gods cannot come to the divine realm either, right? Even so, the lightning divine tower has existed for so many years, and this light of guidance has always been here and has never been closed. Is there really not a single god who is curious enough to come down and take a look? How can the law of the heavenly Tao be broken so easily?" Nangong Chung said, "You're saying that gods cannot be placed above the heavenly Tao? Or are they still restricted by it?" I guess so." "All right, since that's the case." Zhu Yao seriously looked at the crowd. "Then why are we still ascending to God? We're deities. We possess eternal life and unparalleled mystic powers. Other than the heavenly Tao, is there anything that deities cannot do? If the people of the God realm are merely living beings under the heavenly Tao, then what's the difference between the divine realm and the God realm?" Zhu Yao continued to analyze. "Actually, I've never understood. If becoming a deity is for longevity, then what's the purpose of becoming a god? Why do all deities take pride in entering the lightning divine tower? Why do all deities wish to become gods? What's the meaning of becoming a god? Have you ever thought about it?" In an instant, the three of them were stunned, including Yu Yin at the side. He had a blank look as well. "Nangong Huang, tell me, why do we have to enter the tower?" Back then it was 4. Halfway through his words, he once again blanked, and his entire body was suddenly drenched in cold sweat, because he suddenly realized that there was really no reason for him to become a god. It was as if becoming a god was an instinct. The higher his cultivation level, the more he would naturally want to become a god. Not just him, everyone in the divine realm was the same. No one had ever thought about the reason behind it. Why was it like this? If becoming a deity was for longevity, then what was the purpose of becoming a god? Could it be that it was purely for the sake of increasing one's cultivation level? However, ever since they entered the tower, their cultivation levels did not increase by much. Especially when they reached the final floor, they could not even use any of their divine energy, let alone cultivate. It was said that the people of the God realm had grasped the laws of the heavenly Tao and were able to manipulate the mysteries of the heavens. However, even after such a long time, no one had ever seen a true God. If they were truly able to grasp the laws of the heavenly Tao, why weren't there any in the lower realm? Thinking about it carefully, the three of them could not help but begin to break out in cold sweat. Zhu Yao was a little shocked as well. Previously, she merely had a faint guess, but the deeper she thought about it, the more terrifying she felt. The so-called Lightning Divine Tower, the so-called ascension to the God realm, seemed to be a huge scam. All the deities seemed to have been set up from the very beginning. As long as their cultivation level reached a certain level, they would enter the tower. However, thinking about it, There were countless checkpoints and difficulties along the way, and a single misstep would cost them their lives. Everyone knew that they would be able to become gods once they cleared the checkpoints, but as for the benefits of becoming a god, no one knew. Deities possessed endless lifespans in the first place, so what if they could not become gods? The god race did not seem to care about the divine realm either, so why did everyone have nothing better to do and come here to seek death? There seemed to be an invisible hand pushing everyone from the back, a hand called the Heavenly Tao. For some reason, after hearing Zhu Yao's words, the desire to become a god in the depths of Nangong Cheng's heart was suddenly extinguished. However, what about Zhonglu? Nangong Huang, Zhu Yao solemnly said. No matter if it's becoming a devil or a god, I will not object to it. However, you have to think this through. No one knows what the god realm is like, but the devil race. She turned to look at Ying. At the very least, you've seen it for yourself. Nangong Cheng lowered his head to look at his good friend in his embrace. Zhonglu's aura was already indiscernible. Gritting his teeth, he raised his head to look at the snow-white light of guidance and softly cursed. Dongfang girlie, I know you're doing this for our own good. However, my goal here is to become a god. No matter what lies ahead, we all wish to give it a try. He took a deep breath. Since the heavenly Tao is as such, I do not wish to resist. The hell? Zhu Yao wanted to curse out. How is this any different from choosing a dog? You saw Mei Shue's appearance earlier as well? Zhu Yao took a step forward. She clearly doesn't look like she's going to become a god. Just what use does this light of guidance have, and what consequences it will bring, no one knows. In fact, it's not even clear if she'll truly reach the god realm. Are you really going to take this risk? Dongfang girlie. Nangong Cheng turned to look at her. His usual comical look was completely gone, and he had turned incomparably stern and serious. However, a hint of guilt was hidden in his eyes. If I'm alone, I will definitely believe you without any hesitation, and I will also believe Taoist Ying. Even if I become a devil, it's nothing. However, Brother Zhonglu, I know his personality the best. He's a flower deity born from the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth. His heart is pure, but not tough enough. If he becomes a devil, he definitely won't be able to maintain his rationality like Ying. He might not even be able to recognize me, and he might do something irreversible. Rather than that, I might as well follow the heavenly Tao. Zhu Yao sank into silence. Indeed, becoming a devil was equivalent to stimulating all the evil thoughts in the depths of one's heart and infinitely magnifying them. Ying was born as a god, which was why he was able to suppress his nature as a devil and was willing to change. However, just because he was able to do it, it did not mean that Zhonglu could do it as well. Nangong Cheng did not explain any further. He immediately carried Zhonglu and walked towards the light of guidance. Chapter 375. In the end, Zhu Yao still did not stop Nangong Cheng. She could only watch as he walked into the white light. With every step he took, Zhonggu Lu's figure grew fainter. In the end, it disappeared, and a complete Zhonggu Lu appeared next to Nangong Huang. At this moment, they were already surrounded by the white light and were within the light of guidance. Nangong Cheng joyfully turned to look, but Zhonggu Lu's eyes were completely empty. He seemed to be stunned for a moment, but then the light in his eyes disappeared. Like Mei Shui, the two of them slowly ascended with expressionless faces. Zhu Yao could not help but run a few steps forward. However, they had already disappeared within the pillar of light. Sister! Suddenly, Yu Ying's anxious cry came from behind. When Zhu Yao turned to look, the person next to her was currently brushing past her and was walking towards the white light. At that moment, she felt her breathing turning sluggish, and she immediately pulled onto him. Master! Yu Yin, however, did not seem to have heard of it. He immediately walked forward, his eyes staring straight at the light of guidance in front of him. Zhu Yao forcefully pulled onto him. Master, wait a minute. What happened to you? He stopped in his tracks and turned back to look at her. However, his expression wavered for a moment, and a very unfamiliar and angry expression appeared on his face. Let go. He reached out with his other hand and swept her hand away. She only felt a stabbing pain in her heart as a sense of panic that she had never felt before welled up within her. She immediately stood in front of him. "Master, get out of the way." His voice instantly turned cold. Even Zhu Yao was shocked as she fiercely widened her eyes. Her master had never been so fierce to her before, even when he was the angriest. Why now? Was it because of the light of guidance? She immediately reached out to cover his eyes. "Master, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. We can't go there now. That light." She had not finished her sentence. However, she was immediately pushed away by Yu Yin, and the force he used was not the slightest bit merciful. She was caught off guard and fell down. "Master." However, he still didn't answer. Instead, he headed straight for the light of guidance. His eyes became more and more focused as if he was being summoned by something. "Don't go there, Master." "Yu Yin, stop right there." But it was useless. No matter how much she shouted, he seemed to have changed into another person as he walked towards the light of guidance without stopping. It was the light of guidance. She hurriedly climbed up. She tried many times to hold his hand or block his way, but he pushed her away time and time again. His angry eyes made her shudder. He was about to enter the light of guidance. Nangong Chang and Mei Shui's empty expressions immediately appeared in front of her. It was as if everything in the world had disappeared, and there was no emotion in his eyes. He felt as if his heart had been stabbed by a knife. No, Master must not become like that. Absolutely not. Her intuition told her that the God realm was not a good place. Zhu Yao immediately pounced over and used all of her strength to hug onto his waist. "Master, wake up. Don't go there. Look at me. I'm Yu Yao. I'm Yu Wang. Don't be blinded by that light." His footsteps finally stopped. His eyes, which had been staring at the light, slowly lowered his head and looked at her face. "Master, bang." Without any hesitation, his palm landed on her back. A piercing pain instantly spread through her body. For a moment, she felt as if her internal organs were ruptured. She opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The body of the person dressed in snow-white robes in front of her was instantly dyed red. "Move." His face was expressionless, as if he could not see the blood on his body. His tone seemed to be able to freeze the blood in her entire body. He did not have the intention to stop and continued to walk forward. Zhu Yao tightly hugged onto his waist and did not loosen her grip in the slightest. He once again raised his right palm and once again struck her hand. She could even hear the sound of her own bones shattering. "Move." Hints, one palm after another. "Big sis." Yu Ying crazily attacked the invisible barrier, wanting to charge in. However, no matter how much devilish energy he summoned, they all dissipated within the white light before they could even approach. He could only desperately strike the invisible barrier in the middle. Big sis. Hurry and come out. Don't stop him anymore. Big sis." Zhu Yao had never felt such pain before. The pain that came from her heart and body. However, no matter how she shouted, other than anger towards her, there was nothing else in her master's eyes. No, it wasn't towards her, but towards the anger towards her action of stopping him. There was no one else in his eyes. Just what was this light? Why was even her master unable to endure it? "Master, wake up, don't leave me alone." Yu Yin still expressionlessly raised his hand, and with a forceful push, he instantly flung her out. Zhu Yao had long suffered heavy injuries, and at that moment, she could no longer stand steadily and fell. Yu Yin had already taken this opportunity to walk forward. "Master." "Yu Yin." He ignored her. "Stop right there." She crawled forward a few steps. He still did not stop, and just as he was about to step into the light of guidance, Zhu Yao felt as though her breathing was about to stop. In an instant, a huge wave of panic surged towards her, and her heart felt as though it was being hollowed out by someone. "Realm Spirit, if you dare to let my master in, this old lady will destroy her own soul right now and never forgive you ever again." Ting! A familiar sound resounded. In an instant, everything came to a halt. In an instant, it was as though the entire world had been frozen. The sound of the wind disappeared. The Sanskrit chants on the light of guidance stopped, and even Yu Ying, who was still hammering on the outside, stopped shouting. His face still maintained the same expression as before. Her master did not take another step forward either. Suddenly, golden runes appeared out of nowhere, surrounding Yu Yan's body. Those runes were not any kind of talisman seals, nor were they formation runes. Instead, they looked like a horizontal 8. This was the infinity rune. Those runes had been surrounding him, circling round after round in an unhurried manner. Zhu Yao sensed a familiar feeling from them, just like the feeling the light of guidance gave her. Zhu Yao gritted her teeth, took a deep breath, and slowly crawled up. She walked over step by step, looked at the circle of infinity runes for a moment, and then reached out her hand to grab it. As though the circle of runes were alive, they began to twist in her palm. Ting! Another notification sounded, and a notification window instantly popped up. However, this time, there were no more options and only a row of eye-catching red words. Warning: releasing the restriction of source laws. Please confirm the operation seriously. Zhu Yao slightly raised her head and looked at the person in front of her. His eyes were filled with coldness. At that moment, she no longer hesitated and exerted force with her palm. With a crisp ting sound, the circle formed by the infinity runes instantly shattered. Zhu Yao immediately threw out a palm strike, sending her master out of the white area and back onto the grassland. The world that was frozen earlier instantly recovered as well. Yu Yin was startled for a moment. That pair of ice-cold, emotionless eyes flashed with a hint of wavering. He turned to look at Zhu Yao. "Yu Yao, don't come over." Zhu Yao loudly shouted to stop him. Once again, her blood churned, and she puked out a mouthful of blood. Yu Yan's feet paused. Looking at her blood-dyed appearance, he said, "Yu Yao, master. I'm fine. Don't come over." If she were to do it again, she did not dare to guarantee that Realm Spirit would still make a move. Yu Yin stopped his footsteps, however. His hands were tightly clenched into fists, and they began to tremble slightly. Even he himself did not know why he would make a move against her. The moment he entered the white ground, he no longer felt like himself, as though his thoughts were no longer under his control. "Yu Yao, I know." Zhu Yao smiled. "There's no need for explanations between us. I have always believed in you, just like how you believe in me." She turned to look at the person next to her, whose eyes had already turned red. "Yu Ying, be obedient. Help me look after Master. Don't let him come in again. You too." Yu Ying clenched his fists and only nodded a moment later. "Yu Yao." Yu Yan's expression turned anxious. "What are you trying to do? Hurry and come out. Not only the light of guidance, even the surrounding white area is problematic." "Don't worry." Zhu Yao waved her hand and said, "Nothing will happen to me. I'm just going to meet an old friend. But before I go..." With a twist of her hand, she took out that patched red sword. Taking a step forward, she looked at the light of guidance. "I'm going to complete a small mission first." She immediately walked into the light. Holding onto the hilt of the sword with both hands, she used all her strength to stab it into the gigantic infinity at the bottom of the light of guidance. In an instant, the pillar of light that pierced through the sky disappeared, as though it had never appeared in the first place. Zhu Yao turned to look at the two people at the edge of the field, waved her hand and said, "Wait for me to go home and eat." Suddenly, with a few cracking sounds, the entire white area began to split apart. Cracks began to spread in all directions, and even the surrounding grass and even the sky seemed to have been shattered as cracks began to appear. The world shook for a moment, and as though the ground and sky were being peeled off layer by layer, they began to collapse piece by piece. These cracks spread throughout the entire lightning divine tower, and even the scenery in front of them began to distort. Some sort of invisible energy was currently pulling Yu Yin and Yu Ying outwards, as though it was a collapsing secret realm, trying to forcefully eject the people inside. "Yu Yao." Yu Yin wanted to call out to his stupid disciple, but at the position of the light of guidance earlier, his disciple's figure was already nowhere to be seen. What was left was a completely blood-red sword. In the next instant, he had already appeared in the lightning divine hall. In front of him was the lightning divine tower that pierced through the sky. However, the white body of the tower was currently collapsing. Gigantic cracks were being torn apart, and even the gigantic word bug on the surface of the tower was being torn apart. Occasionally, light would flash out from the tower, and in an instant, many unfamiliar figures appeared in the lightning divine hall. Everyone was ejected from the room, and the lightning divine tower had completely disappeared from the divine realm. There's nothing here? The scorching sun roasted the ground, causing cracks to appear one after another. The surroundings were barren, and everything was flat as far as the eye could see. There was no wind, no water, no greenery, and not even a speck of sand. Other than the countless figures swaying about, yet expressionless faces, they looked as though they were sleepwalking. Without any purpose, they wandered about without any consciousness, and their eyes were completely empty. This is the realm of gods. A long while later. Chapter 376. Countless figures brushed past her, but they did not stop for even a moment, only walking aimlessly. Zhu Yao could not help but feel a chill in her heart. Though when she destroyed the light of guidance, she had already made the preparations that the realm of gods was not a good place. However, it was still shocking to see such a scene. It was even worse than the netherworld. Although the netherworld was full of ghost chi, it was not so desolate. Although there were many people here, it was eerily quiet, like a silent movie without subtitles. A familiar figure walked past her. Zhu Yao's heart sank as she reflexively pulled onto him. Nan Gongcheng. He turned around, but his eyes were empty. He seemed to be looking at her, but there was clearly not a single shadow in his eyes. And Zhonggu Lu was not by his side. The friend he cared so much about wasn't by his side at all. Zhu Yao's hand trembled for a moment, and she unconsciously let go. Nan Gongcheng, on the other hand, simply changed his direction and continued forward. There was no reply, no anger, and no expression on his face. Like a precise instrument, it walked according to the preset path, without sorrow or joy. She suddenly recalled his final smile when he walked into the light of guidance. It was filled with hope and expectation, as if it was a newborn. But now, what's wrong with him? Zhu Yao fiercely turned around. He has lost his sense of self. Realm Spirit transformed into an exact copy of her, and took a step forward to stand by her side. The light on the lightning divine tower is the first ray of light that was scattered towards the three realms when the heavens and earth were split apart. It is also the purest light in this world, the light of purification. Purify. Zhu Yao was startled. Purify what? Realm Spirit turned his head and looked at her seriously. He said softly, hatred, obsession, love, joy, sorrow, desire, fear, and everything else. Her eyes widened. They were cleansed of their emotions and desires. Realm Spirit nodded. Zhu Yao took a step back and once again looked at the figures in front of her. No wonder all of these people were like puppets. Why did they create such a god realm? Zhu Yao's chest felt heavy, as though something was pressing down on it, and she could not breathe. Is there a need to do this? Was this the end of cultivation? Is this the true meaning of heavenly Tao? Yao Yao. He sighed. The scenery in front of her changed in an instant, and in the blink of an eye, she had once again arrived at the place overflowing with the fragrance of flowers, a place that was as beautiful as a fairyland. This is their own choice. Becoming an immortal was also good. It doesn't matter whether they become gods or not. They chose their own paths. But aren't you the one who's supporting this path? Zhu Yao solemnly said. Realm Spirit, you're the spirit of the three realms. The three realms is you. You are the world. Aren't all the living things in this world your children? Do you want their final destination to be a barren land like the God realm? Of course not. Realm Spirit turned to look at her and smiled. So, I found you, my friend. Yao Yao. I'm the spirit of the three realms, so I naturally cherish this world the most. He frowned. But the living beings of this world are just like that. No matter if it's humans, beasts, or plant demons. As long as they develop spiritual intelligence, they will be disturbed by the 7 emotions and 6 desires. As long as they have desires, they will never be satisfied. After cultivating as a deity, they will want to cultivate as a god, and after becoming a god, they will most likely want to cultivate something else. He let out a long sigh. Though I'm the spirit of the three realms, what I can do is extremely limited. Luck, spiritual energy. I can even change the settings of the heavenly Tao. I've always wanted to change and save this world, but no matter how I change it, there will always be a new problem. A new problem? She sighed. Do you still remember those bugs? Zhu Yao was startled. She nodded strangely. Why did he ask about this? Actually, from the very beginning, they weren't loopholes that could destroy the world, but rather patches that I designed to save the world. What? Are you freaking kidding me? Those Mary Jack sewer patches. I know you won't believe me, but that's the truth. She waved her hand, and in an instant, two projections appeared in the air. What was displayed were the bugs that she had fixed in the past. However, there was a name on both screens. On the left side, it was written, Anticipated Plot. On the right side, it was written, Actual Plot. Let's take Xiao Yi as an example. Realm Spirit pointed, and the first bug that she fixed instantly appeared on the screen. He was born in poverty and grew up at the lowest level. He understood the pain of lower-level practitioners the most. That's why I gave him great luck. Originally, I hoped that with this level of understanding, he would be able to prevent more massacres, eliminate the breeding of resentment, and reduce the burden on the underworld. However, I never expected that. The two images were completely different. On the left, Xiaoyi was a great philanthropist, saving lives everywhere, upholding justice, and walking on the path of a saint. While on the other side, the actual plot was the same as the plot she received back then. He gathered all 5 spirits and ascended to the higher realm, and then the world collapsed. He directly destroyed an entire world, and the resentment was 1,000,000 times more than what I expected. This patch was indeed a little stifling. And Mu Meiyan, Realm Spirit continued. Her resurrection was actually to suppress the revival of the devil. As long as her soul does not die, then the devil will not be able to completely resurrect, and the world will be spared from a calamity. She even helped spirits. In the first place, her existence was to allow the devil who had taken over Lin Qi's body to develop feelings. As long as the original Lin Qi has feelings for her, then the devilish nature in his body will be suppressed. Not to mention Ling Tian, her existence is the patch. And, stop! Zhu Yao made a stop gesture and scratched her head a little irritably. In other words, those bugs were actually caused by you? She nodded with an innocent look. The hell? So she wasn't here to save the world, but to clean up his mess. Yao, you have to believe me. I really had no other choice, which was why I called you over. She looked as though she was about to cry. I have looked for many people as well, but no matter if it's humans, beasts, or any living being that has gained sentience, in the end, they will all turn into that world's bugs. The more powerful they are, the more they possess, and the more severe the consequences. There has never been a person like you who has always held on to their heart. Enough, there's no need to flatter me. Just tell me your final goal. Zhu Yao waved her hand. Realm Spirit paused for a moment. Clenching his fists, he looked into her eyes with a serious expression, and then solemnly said, I want you to re-establish the order of the 3 realms, rewrite the heavenly Tao, and change everything. Become the manager of the 3 realms. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She scanned him from head to toe with widened eyes, and then reached out to touch his forehead. You're not having a fever, right? Though she was a chief planner, and could be considered a small supervisor, she had never been a CEO before. Yao. He immediately pulled down her hand, and his expression was stern like never before. Only you can stop the 3 realms from heading towards destruction. Don't be so certain. Hey. Zhu Yao was a little flustered. I only know how to make games. I've never done something like this before. What if she went overboard? I believe you. I don't even have confidence in myself. Where do you get your confidence from? You can do it. His smile was brilliant. Actually, ever since you came here, this world has already changed in a good direction. You've already been to the three realms, and you already have a sufficient understanding of this world. You just have to voice out your thoughts. Was he asking her to hand in her thoughts on traveling the three realms? Zhu Yao was silent for a moment, before she slowly said, "Actually, I've already said what needs to be said. You've long understood the problems of this world as well, haven't you?" She raised her head and looked at him. "You closed the heavenly door for ascension in all the various worlds. Didn't you agree with what I said? Those who are filled with slaughter are basically not worthy of becoming deities. Realm Spirit, you said that you once sent many people to fix bugs, but in the end, they would always become new leaks. Because they lost their original hearts along the way, they ended up walking on an extreme path. Then why didn't you ask everyone to not lose their original hearts right from the start?" She patted on his shoulder. "Actually, what I can't understand the most is the atmosphere of this world that promotes the law of the jungle. Because from another perspective, slaughter magnifies the greed and selfishness of humans. Actually, not all humans are like this. It's said that humans are born kind, and kindness actually exists in the depths of everyone's hearts. However, after they lost their original hearts, they would throw it away. However, the heavenly Tao has never cared about this point. Hence, those who should ascend ascended, and those who should become deities became deities." She took a step forward and seriously looked into Realm Spirit's eyes. "Realm Spirit, have you ever thought that it's actually not that they lost their original hearts along the way? Instead, from the very start, the heavenly Tao that you've set up has never required them to maintain their original hearts?" She was instantly stunned. "Realm Spirit, actually, all living beings in this world are the same. They are born the same, and there's nothing different about them. It's just that their circumstances have shaped their choices. If the world tells them that they don't need to maintain their original hearts, then they would throw it away without any hesitation. If the world tells them that this is the most important thing, then they would always keep it." Zhu Yao smiled. "You said that I'm the only one who can save this world, but that's actually wrong. I'm actually the same as everyone else. The only difference is that I'm living in another plane. My world tells me that killing, plundering, and framing are all wrong. They have to be condemned. My conscience tells me that these are heinous crimes. These are unforgivable. That's why I won't do these things even if I die." Realm Spirit, what this world lacks isn't people who can maintain their original hearts, but the energy that can guide everyone to maintain their original hearts. Or to put it in other words, the world has never clearly told everyone to maintain their original hearts. Realm Spirit was silent for a long while, before she smiled a little. Even though it was clearly the same face, her smile was as though the clouds had parted to reveal the sun. It was so bright that it was a little dazzling. Why did she feel like she had lost? Do you dare to change your face? Chapter 377. Zhu Yao did not know how long she had chatted with Realm Spirit. She simply told him everything that she had seen and heard ever since she transmigrated, and everything that she felt was illogical. She couldn't guarantee that what she said was right, but she just felt that there shouldn't only be strong people in this world. There should also be benevolent people. There was nothing wrong with the original heavenly Tao guiding living beings to improve themselves. After all, without competition, there would be no progress. If everyone did not have the drive to improve themselves, then the three realms would probably forever live in a primitive society. But when he was forging ahead, he couldn't abandon his heart. As the saying goes, one must think of the source when drinking water. No matter how powerful an immortal was, he was still a human from the beginning. Realm Spirit, there's still one thing I don't understand. Zhu Yao looked at Realm Spirit and said, "Light of purification. If I'm not mistaken, that's the final bug, right? I can understand why you want those who become gods to cut off their 7 emotions and 6 desires. If gods really had the ability to resist the heavenly axiom, then gods would be too dangerous. Moreover, according to the principle of survival of the fittest in the lower realm, which of these people who climb to the top would not be unscrupulous? If even one of them had the slightest evil thought, the 3 realms would be doomed. However, if you didn't want them to become gods from the very beginning, why did you set up the lightning divine tower? giving all the immortals a chance to become gods and guiding them to cultivate their gods? Wasn't Master's abnormal behavior because of the heavenly Tao's control? The infinity symbol seal that she destroyed back then was actually the law of the heavenly Tao. Other than the hint from the heavenly Tao, she really couldn't think of any other reason why all the deities held the lightning divine tower in such high esteem, wanting to enter it to become a god with their lives on the line, not hesitating to give up the chance of eternal life. Realm Spirit sighed. Yao Yao, have you ever thought that in this world, the realm of gods never existed in the first place? What? No. Zhu Yao was startled. Then what I saw earlier it wasn't like she was blind or anything. That's just a temporary space created to store people who were accidentally cleansed of their emotions and desires by the light of purification. Realm Spirit said seriously. Yao Yao, I've said it before. I'm the spirit of the three realms, not the four realms. Zhu Yao was startled. Divine realm, human realm, underworld. Just as she said. Indeed, there were only the three realms, but if the god realm was included, what do you mean? Speak clearly. Why was she getting more and more confused? Yao Yao, in the three realms, what do you think is the main problem that will directly cause the three realms to collapse? Realm Spirit said seriously. Zhu Yao thought for a moment. His eyes widened. It's resentment. Yes. Realm Spirit nodded. Resentment is born from living beings, but it cannot be extinguished along with living beings. It is immortal, and it is filled with hostility. As long as he entered any realm, he could cause the collapse of that realm. Before you help me find a way to eliminate the resentment, even the river of forgetfulness can only suppress it at the bottom of the river. At that time, there was only one way to eliminate the resentment. The light of purification. Zhu Yao continued. Realm Spirit nodded. The light of purification is the first ray of sunlight at the beginning of the world. The purest thing in the world could purify everything in the world, including the 7 emotions and 6 desires. That's why I set up the lightning divine tower and guided the river of forgetfulness into the tower, in order to purify the resentment that was growing exponentially in the river of forgetfulness, to prevent resentment from entering the three realms. However, I myself am an existence of the will of the three realms. The lightning divine hall is something I set up. The tower naturally carries the aura of the heavenly Tao, and all practitioners in the world cultivate with the heavenly Tao. That's why the people of the world thought that the lightning divine tower you set up was a path to leveling up. That's why they entered the lightning to seek torture. She nodded. The hell, in the end, those deities were the ones who asked for it. Those souls that had their consciousness cleansed have nowhere to go. And because of the light of purification, that's why they are unable to return to the underworld with the river of forgetfulness to reincarnate. That's why I opened up a holding ground, which is the realm of gods you saw at the back. As long as they regain a little bit of consciousness, they will be able to enter the cycle of reincarnation with the river of forgetfulness. What do you mean by drawing water with a sieve? So there was no realm of gods in the first place, and the final destination of gods was to reincarnate once again. Then what's with the realm of gods in the past? She suddenly recalled the god race, that tragic race. Realm Spirit was silent for a moment. After a while, he solemnly said, "They are remnants of the previous world." The previous world? Yao Yao, this plane of ours had been destroyed before. Not just once. What? Not just once? Wasn't it only once during the Great War of Gods and Devils? That's why the human realm was split into 3,000 worlds. Ever since the creation of the world, this plane of mine has always been in the midst of destruction and rebirth. Realm Spirit frowned, as though he had recalled something sad. The outcome every single time was the same. Living beings fought with each other, and then resentment was born. In the end, it caused the world to collapse and then be reborn. This plane has been reborn in many, many forms, and there have been many races. However, the outcome every single time was destruction. Cycle after cycle, endlessly repeating itself. Only when this plane could no longer withstand such a rebirth did I appear. She took a deep breath and continued, because I did not wish for such a thing to happen again. The world turned into a spirit and wanted to stop everything. However, I realized that even if I gained sentience, I was still unable to walk out of this cycle. The world of the god race was the first world I experienced after I woke up. However, it still perished. After my rebirth, I split the world into 3,000 worlds in order to minimize the losses. I thought that even if it were to collapse, I would be able to salvage it in time, until the resentment grew. I could already foresee the final outcome. That's why I sought help from other planes. Wait a minute. Zhu Yao was a little confused. You said it was resentment that caused the world to collapse, but in the god race, there wasn't any resentment, right? Resentment is just a term for this world. Realm Spirit said. The previous world might not necessarily have this name. Zhu Yao was startled, and her heart sank. Devilic energy. The hell? Zhu Yao's head hurt. After all this time, devilic energy and resentment were the same? The only difference was, one was produced by the previous world, while the other was produced by this world. Devilic energy is also the most fundamental reason for the collapse of the previous world. That's not right. Zhu Yao frowned. If devilic energy is just a product of the previous world, then what's with those who turned into devils? Putting aside Yuing, what's with Fau? He's clearly a person of this world, so why was he still able to turn into a devil? Yao Yao, resentment is born from the unwillingness and hatred of living beings when they die. However, what if there are people who have already developed such hatred before they die? You're saying resentment is formed after death, while those who are alive will turn into devils. Realm Spirit nodded. However, turning into devils is better than turning into resentment, because at the moment of their death, only devilic energy will dissipate, and no resentment will be formed. However, a devil can cause even more people to die in vain, and the resentment produced will be even more, right? Indeed. Especially after the change in the heavenly Tao, if deities need to maintain their original hearts in the future, then there will definitely be people who lose their original hearts, and the number of people who turn into devils will only increase. That's why they need someone to restrain them. Restrain? Zhu Yao was startled. You're talking about Yuing? Why him? He's still a child, and there's nothing different between him and other devils. She paused halfway through her words and widened her eyes. He's a god. Realm Spirit nodded. His existence is necessary. He's not a god, nor is he a devil. He's a devil god. Devils have always been outside of the heavenly Tao, people who walk towards the other extreme. They are the darkest and darkest side of living beings, a race that has abandoned their humanity. Realm Spirit sighed. If they're not restrained by the heavenly Tao, most likely, they will turn into existences similar to resentment. That's why they can only use devils to restrain devils. Yuing is the one and only devil god in this world. Only he can control the devils. But a devil god is a devil as well. Zhu Yao rolled her eyes. And according to what you said, the devils are a race that ignores the laws of the heavenly Tao and walks towards the extreme. Then, a devil god is the same as well, right? How can you be so sure that a devil god will obey the words of the heavenly Tao? Realm Spirit smiled and looked at her seriously. Hasn't he already obeyed the heavenly Tao? Zhu Yao was startled, and then she suddenly reacted. Me? Her smile grew even more despicable. The hell? Why am I involved again? I simply wish for him to be a good child. After thinking about it for a moment, it seemed like she was the only one who could suppress Yu Ying's devilish nature. And in front of her, other than that one time when he wanted to kill Little Wimp, he had never lost his rationality like the other devils, and turned into a killing machine that only knew how to kill. Zhu Yao swept her eyes across Realm Spirit and stared at him. You couldn't have had this plan from the very beginning, which was why you sent me to the god race, right? Realm Spirit stiffened, and then he let out a silly laugh. Ayaya, young maiden, don't be like this. I simply wanted you to brush your face. I never expected that you would actually be able to do it. You're awesome. Scram. Zhu Yao gave him a kick. Hurry and speak. What else is your scheme? Young maiden, She looked like she was about to cry. How can you say it's a scheme? Isn't this supposed to be a mutual aid between friends? I'm merely predicting the ending in advance. Zhu Yao pinched her cheeks and forcefully pulled them to the sides. Stop changing the topic. Hurry and speak. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Young maiden, this is your face. How can you do it? TCH, it doesn't hurt anyway. That made so much sense. She was actually speechless. Hurry and speak. All right, there's only one thing. She weakly stretched out a finger. It's about the aftermath. Aftermath? Zhu Yao loosened her grip. Yao Yao, as you said, the heavenly Tao has already changed. Only those who do not forget their original intentions can open the door of ascension, but she rubbed her cheeks. What about these people in the divine realm? Indeed, the current divine realm was filled with deities who had killed their way up from the path of blood. Currently, the lightning divine tower has already been destroyed, and the light of purification has already been retracted. Since these deities can no longer cultivate as gods, will they really stay in the divine realm peacefully? Naturally not. I can't throw all of them into the cycle of reincarnation, so I can only restrict them. Another restriction. Weren't you the one who operated it? Of course not. Realm Spirit had a serious look on his face. Although I am the spirit of the three realms, it is only this plane. The other planes have other managers, and I don't have the authority to enter them. If I want to travel between the two realms, I naturally need the approval of your plane manager. Manager? Why did she think of the country's president, chairman, or something like that? Could there really be an agency like that? Yao Yao, actually, the world you're in is very vast as well. It's not smaller than the 3,000 worlds. Your region only knows a small part of it. However, when I went to ask for help, the manager recommended you to me. The facts prove that he was right. You know the manager of my world? Of course. Her face was filled with pride. Isn't this for the sake of a friendly relationship between planes? Friendly your sister. Were they trying to build a harmonious plane? Then what was she? A special envoy sent to a plane for a friendly visit? Enough nonsense. Where's the pass? She immediately reached out her hand. Hurry and give it to me. Realm Spirit's expression stiffened. Yao Yao, actually, if you're coming from the other world, my side will definitely welcome you. There's no need for a pass. The difficult part is to enter your plane from here, which is why I need this pass. That's why I said you're going back and forth. Actually, there's no need for a pass. This pass is issued by your plane to the residents of my side. I don't have the authority to issue this pass. Speak human language. What did he mean? I can't get this pass. I need to look for the administrator of your world. The hell? Zhu Yao slapped the back of his head. If you can't get it, then why the hell are you spouting so much nonsense? She rubbed her head, feeling wronged. I can't get it, but I can bring you to your plane's agency to get it done. Zhu Yao's hand paused. How do we get there? Don't worry, I have already set up the route. She waved her hand with an excited look, and in an instant, the two screens in front of her merged into one. Then, it slowly stretched out and changed its shape. It looked especially familiar, as though it was the source code of a computer. What's this? This is a mystic artifact gifted to me by your plane's administrator. She looked as though she was presenting a treasure. It can calculate and analyze the direction of all matters in the three realms in advance and find loopholes at the first moment. It also has various other functions. Do you still remember those chat boxes you often see? They're all displayed by this mystic artifact. The cheat you have on you is also transported by it. The hell? So those annoying chat boxes back then, those cheats filled with ridicule points, were all created by this thing. Why did she feel as though she had entered an online game? This thing looked like a precise high-tech AI, right? Just what kind of person was the administrator of their plane? Why did she feel like he was becoming more and more incredible? Done. Realm Spirit excitedly said. The passage to the agency has been constructed. Zhu Yao raised her head to take a look. Her face instantly darkened, and the corner of her lips twitched. What's with turning into a door? And it's even pink, hey? Do you think this is Doraemon's door to anywhere? Oh, right, I still have to post an address. Realm Spirit took out a pen and a stack of sticky notes out of nowhere. He wrote a line of words on them, and then, with a smack, he pasted it on the door. Destination, Plane Agency. Zhu Yao. Let me think. Where should I start retorting from? It really is a door to anywhere, hey? Pasting a piece of paper, and you can navigate? Is it really all right for a dignified manager of a plane to be so casual? Yao Yao. Realm Spirit pulled Zhu Yao over. His face was filled with a seriousness that had never been seen before. Behind the door is the administrative bureau where the manager resides. My abilities are only limited to this plane. I am unable to interfere with the matters of your world. Whether or not you're able to obtain the pass, you can only rely on yourself. Hey, why did he suddenly become so serious? His words made her nervous as well. Hey, just what kind of person is the administrator of our world? Realm Spirit was silent for a moment. His expression sank, causing Zhu Yao's heart to tremble. After a long while, he said, I can only say, he's a very strict person. Strict. In other words, he wasn't someone who was easy to talk to. Then, could she still obtain the pass? Should she send him a gift first? No matter what, she had to obtain the plane pass. She did not want to be separated from her master forever. Zhu Yao took a deep breath. After mentally preparing herself for a long while, she finally pulled on the door handle. She forcefully turned it, and a creaking sound could be heard. In an instant, a ray of white light instantly surrounded her. The scenery in front of her changed, and a room appeared. It was decorated with warm colors. Tables, chairs, coffee tables, shoe cabinets, sofa, and television were all present. In the middle, there was even a man wearing an apron and holding onto a mop, seriously mopping the floor. As he mopped, he retreated, and when he reached the door, he coldly shouted, Raise your feet. Oh, Zhu Yao reflexively took a step back and stood on the cushion at the door. She silently stood there for more than 10 minutes and blankly stared at the unfamiliar man. He mopped the floor twice, wiped the table, wiped the glass, hung the clothes, and even made breakfast while he was at it. Only then did Zhu Yao realize something. There must be something wrong with the way she opened the door. Should she go back and open it again? How could the plane management office be a place like this? It even had 2 bedrooms and a living room. Wait a minute. Why did this place look a little familiar? The 2 cups on the table, why did they look so similar to the pair she bought from a roadside stall? And the piece of floral cloth on the coffee table, the sofa that was filled with scratches, and even the spider plant placed next to the television, looked like the one that her friend Guagua planted back then. Time to eat. The man arranged the bowls and chopsticks and raised his voice to call out. Compared to the raise your feet from before, this voice was simply overflowing with gentleness. When his words fell, the door on the left creaked open, and a girl wearing teddy bear pajamas walked out. Guagua. Zhu Yao instantly widened her eyes. The girl turned her head and was startled for a moment. Yao Yao, when did you arrive? Why didn't you give me a call? Have you eaten breakfast? No, come over and eat. As he said that, he pointed to the table. Oh. Zhu Yao reflexively changed her shoes, washed her hands, and sat down. Wait a minute. What's wrong? The hell? Zhu Yao fiercely jumped up and pointed at the unfamiliar man who was chewing on a bun. Who's he? Her friend Guagua calmly glanced at her, and a moment later, she said, A passerby who likes to court death? Did you just randomly bring a passerby home to clean and cook? And what the hell did she mean by likes to court death? That's right, this was her good friend Guagua's house in the modern era, the place she had just moved out of. I wasn't the one who brought him back. Guagua's face was still as stiff as ever. He followed me back. Guagua, are you all right? Zhu Yao stroked her forehead. You stayed behind after he followed me back? What if he's a bad guy? No, I have to call the police. She picked up the phone Guagua placed on the table and was just about to dial 110. Suddenly, the phone rang, sparks flew, and the screen instantly turned black. That's the fourth one, Guogwa suddenly said. What's with that fortunately, your rich expression? The main point isn't the phone, hey. The man who had not spoken the entire time, and whose main occupation was to chew on buns, and whose side occupation was to sneak glances at Guogwa, suddenly raised his head and looked at her. His eyes were as cold as ice. Zhu Yao could not help but tremble for a moment. Looking at the broken phone in her hand, she instantly reacted. Chapter 379. The man didn't reply. It was as if he couldn't hear her at all. He just picked up a soup dumpling and carefully placed it in Guogwa's bowl. When he saw that Guogwa had eaten it, he smiled so widely that it seemed as if his entire person had melted. Hey, your persona is ruined. What is a plain manager? Guogwa asked curiously. Zhu Yao hesitated for a moment. She then pulled her, who was still holding onto the bun, into the house and locked the door from the inside. Guogwa, I have something very serious to tell you. That person outside, he might not be an ordinary person. I know, Guogwa replied calmly. What? When he first came, he was still a fish. Today, Guogwa thought about the breakfast on the table and hesitated for a moment before saying, Mr. Tianluo, right? What the hell is Mr. Conk? Could it be that when the two of them met, that man was not in human form? Guogwa, just how thick are your nerves to be so calm? This man definitely has ulterior motives for you. Guogwa. She grabbed her shoulders and shook her. What's going on? How long have you known him? What did he do to you? Speak clearly. His only good friend was about to be taken away by an unknown dangerous creature. Don't. Stop shaking. I'm telling you. It was actually 3 months ago. Guogwa sighed. Didn't I ask you about him the day I came back from my trip? 3 months. Zhu Yao recalled for a moment. It should be the time when she transmigrated back. Guogwa had indeed just returned from his travels, and back then, he seemed to have suddenly asked her a strange question. Mermaid? She remembered. At that time, she seemed to have suddenly asked if there were mermaids in this world. At that time, she thought that she had also transmigrated and seen the mermaids. After that, he was busy with his master's matter and forgot about it. Could it be that you really saw it? Yeah, when I was traveling, I saw him dragging a big fishtail and almost died by the side of the road. So, you saved him? Guogwa turned to look at her. He said calmly, no. What? Zhu Yao felt her chin dropping. You can't be saved? Yes. Why? I won't run when I see an unknown creature lying on the side of the road. Are you going to stay for dinner? That makes sense. This is a normal human reaction. Then what happened next? Then I went home? Why aren't you following the script? Then why is he here? The night you moved out, he suddenly appeared in the bathtub, and his fishtail disappeared as well. Guogwa raised the soup dumpling that was still on her chopsticks and ate it. A man suddenly appeared in your bathtub. Don't you think it's strange? Where's your common sense? Where are your nerves? It is quite strange. Guogwa nodded and said with a puzzled expression, Say, he's a fish, and there's no water where he was lying. Why didn't he dry up and come to my house to soak in water? Was that the point? Yao Yao, don't worry. Compared to you, I still know my limits. Why do I feel like I'm being looked down upon? Guogwa pulled her to sit on the bed. Let's talk about it. What's going on with you? Zhu Yao turned to look at her. After hesitating for a moment, she gritted her teeth and told her everything about her transmigrating to the cultivation world. That's how it is. Realm Spirit said this is the plane management office, and I saw that person the moment I arrived. So he's definitely not an ordinary person. Guogwa looked at her with a strange expression for a moment. You're saying you went to another plane to find a part-time job and even found a man to solve the problem of being a leftover woman. So this time, you came back to apply for a visa for your boyfriend? You can put it that way. Her explanation was very comprehensive. Guogwa's expression became even stranger. As though she was about to say something, a knock came from the door. Guogwa, do you want to drink a cup of milk? It was that man's voice. Zhu Yao was startled. It was that man's voice. Why did he suddenly appear here to wash and cook for her best friend? She wondered what his intentions were. For a moment, she became a little nervous. No, she had to think of a way. Guagua, what are you doing? Before she could think it through, Guagua had already pulled open the door. That diligent housekeeper was standing outside. In his hand was a cup of warm milk. His eyes were shining as he looked at Guagua. Milk. Guagua immediately took it and gulped it down in one gulp. She then immediately asked, Yao Yao said you're a plane manager? It would be weird if he would answer such a direct question, right? That's right. The man nodded. The hell? He really answered. Hey, did he have to be so direct? You can apply for a plane visa? Yes. Then help Yao Yao get a few. It wasn't easy for her to find a man in her 20s. She can't break up just because they're in a different place. All right. Zhu Yao. Was the problem with a long-distance relationship? It was a visa for 2 planes after all, and it was solved so easily. She didn't feel any sense of accomplishment at all. The man pulled out a notebook and pen from an unknown place and wrote a few words. As he wrote, he even raised his head. How many people? Zhu Yao weakly stretched out 2 fingers. 2. Guagua suddenly widened her eyes and scanned her from head to toe. One's my husband, and the other's my little brother. Zhu Yao hurriedly explained. Keep that 2-timing expression of yours away. Hey. Name? Yu Yin, Yu Ying. Gender? Male. Occupation? Temporarily unemployed. 1-inch photo without a hat. Why did he need a photo? Flip's table. Realm spirit never informed her before. Genetic information and soul fragments are fine as well? No. Who would carry another person's genes and soul with them? Hey? That man raised his head and coldly glanced at her. With a paw, he closed the notebook in his hands. Information is incomplete. Sent back for re-examination. Don't. What do you mean sent back for re-examination, hey? Just how difficult was it for her to transmigrate? Zhu Yao felt like crying as she looked at her friend next to her. Guagua received the distress signal and immediately asked, Do you really need a photo? That man's face instantly blossomed as he shyly glanced at Guagua. Not necessarily. Then why the hell are you sending it back for re-examination, hey? Yao Yao, I won't hand over those 2 then. The man immediately nodded. All right, he replied straightforwardly. Zhu Yao. So in other words, he was purposely making things difficult for her earlier? The man tore off the 2 pieces of paper he had just finished writing. However, he did not pass them to her. Instead, he passed them to Guagua as if he was presenting a treasure. Done. Guagua then passed them to Zhu Yao. On the 2 pieces of paper with horizontal stripes, 2 large words were written. Pass. At the bottom right corner, Yu Yin and Yu Ying's names were written. That's it? Isn't this a little too simple? What happened to the promised high-class pass that was issued by an authoritative organization? At the very least, there should be a manual or something like that, right? Effective immediately. As though he had guessed what she wanted to ask, the man opened his mouth to explain. However, he looked at her with a disgusted look. A guide is required to transmigrate between planes. Only when you return will the person issuing the pass be able to come over. In other words, her master and Yu Ying could only transmigrate with her at the same time. This was good as well. The pass needs to be activated within 2 hours. Otherwise, it will be ineffective. The man still coldly said, Activate? How do I activate it? Could it be that she needed her master to send her a message? The man frowned, and his expression grew even more disgusted. It will automatically activate after coming into contact with the target. In other words, as long as she passed the pass to her master and Yu Ying, it would be fine. Fortunately, she still had 2 hours. Guagua. Seeing how this person was so obedient towards Guagua, he seemed to treat her sincerely. Otherwise, his eyes wouldn't have bloomed the moment he saw Guagua. After all, this person's identity wasn't simple. Before she could say anything, the man suddenly interrupted. It will automatically become ineffective if it's not activated. Before she could speak, the man suddenly interrupted. It will automatically lose its effect if it's not activated. Aren't there still 2 hours? What? Zhu Yao was startled. The man's expression turned even colder, and he continued to change his words. Half an hour. The hell? You can't be thinking of chasing me away, right? Fuck. You can't be thinking of chasing me away, right? Hey, hey, hey. Do you have to be so fickle? Hey, hey, hey. Do you have to be so fickle? Hey, hey, hey. Do you have to be so fickle? 5 minutes. You win. Zhu Yao turned around and walked towards the door. Guogua, I will come back to find you after the pass is activated. Only then did the man's expression turn a little better. She followed Yao Yao all the way to the door. Zhu Yao immediately opened the door, only to see the familiar staircase. She turned to look at that sinister manager. How do I return? The man didn't reply. He simply walked over quickly. She didn't know what he did, but when he closed the door and opened it again, it was already a passage filled with white light. The hell? It turned into an anywhere door again. Just as Zhu Yao was about to enter, a thought suddenly flashed in her mind. She suddenly thought of something, and fiercely turned to look at the person whose face was filled with the words hurry and scram. She suddenly recalled Realm Spirit's words. He said that she was chosen because someone recommended her. Then, you can't be the one who recommended me to Realm Spirit, right? The man's reply was to directly kick her in. The hell? It really was him. He told her that she was just an ordinary person and didn't have any heaven-defying identity. She had never stepped on dog shit, and she didn't have any strange marks on her body, such as an imprint that represented her identity. Even if it was a lottery, she wouldn't be chosen. Why did she have to be chosen to transmigrate? The hell, so it was just to have her move out, so that he could take the opportunity to pick up Guogua. It had to be known that Guogua was even more of a shut-in than her. As a manager, are you really a man to play such tricks? Just you wait. This daddy here will expose your true face for Guogua the moment I return. SSSS. I owe my butt. That kick sure was ruthless. Young maiden, you're back so quickly? Realm Spirit sprinted over with an excited look and glanced at the 2 pieces of paper in his hands. You really obtained it. You're so amazing. As expected of the woman I fancied. Zhu Yao simply wanted to say, ho ho. She was suddenly startled, and then said with an ecstatic look, your manager actually gave you a plain imprint? What imprint? It's the control over the free movement of the 2 realms. Initially, there's a cooldown period of 1,000 years for plain interaction. With this imprint, there's no such restriction. Where is it? She glanced at the pass in her hands. Where's the imprint? Here. Realm Spirit waved his hand with an excited look. Zhu Yao simply felt a golden light flash behind her, and slowly, a size 42 shoe imprint appeared. Chapter 380. After returning to Realm Spirit's place, the 2 pieces of paper that Zhu Yao brought back turned into a series of 1-0 characters and disappeared, automatically searching for Yu Yin and Yu Ying to activate them. As for that so-called plain imprint, it directly entered her divine sense and floated right at the center. A size 42 shoe imprint hung in her primordial spirit. Zhu Yao felt her entire body turning sour. This feeling of being stepped on by someone at every moment was simply suffocating. Just based on this point alone, she would never agree to the relationship between that vile person and Guogua. Even if she had to break up a pair of lovebirds, she had to firmly oppose it to the end. She was such a serious person. Yao Yao, though this looks a little. It's still an imprint, after all. Realm Spirit patted on her shoulders and suddenly suggested, if you really don't like it, why don't I help you modify it? Zhu Yao turned around. Modify? How? Realm Spirit chuckled and waved his hand. A light breeze swept past, and in an instant, another ball of light appeared in Zhu Yao's primordial spirit. That ball of light slowly condensed, and then it turned into another shoe imprint. Realm Spirit had a complacent look. This is good. Good your sister. Flips table. A single shoe imprint is already vexing enough. Are you trying to make a pair? Do you believe I won't hack you to death? Ouch, 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 ouch. Realm Spirit screamed as he sucked in a breath of cold air. Don't hit my face. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Hurry and erase that shoe imprint. Mama's egg. Earlier, she was stepped on once, and now, she was stepped on twice. And one of them was a size 43, and the other was a size 42? Even if the new one had many patterns, and was even colorful, when you step on someone, please put in more effort, alright? This is a good thing. 3 realms imprint, Realm Spirit said with an innocent look. 3 realms imprint? What's that? Zhu Yao loosened her grip, and suddenly, she had a bad premonition. She calmed down and looked at the new shoe imprint, only to see that the middle of the imprint and the patterns were crooked, forming 3 letters. No. What the hell is CEO? Explain yourself. The hell? Don't keep giving me strange things. Calm down, calm down. Realm Spirit blinked his bright eyes and looked at her. This is a super big reward package, 3 realms seal. With this, you can use all of my power, and your friendship in the 3 realms will instantly be maxed out. It's a worry-free and painless journey, a must-have item for traveling between planes. Why does it sound so unreliable? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes. Use human words to say it again. With this, you can do whatever you want in the 3 realms. Really? Is there such a good thing? Are you sure there are no side effects? How could that be? It can't be. Why are you so far away from me? Zhu Yao glanced at the 3-meter distance that suddenly opened up between the two of them. Realm Spirit, who was about to take another step back, paused. After a while, he said, just a little bit of additional effect. Speak. In the future, I'll need you to temporarily manage the affairs of the 3 realms. She smiled even more wickedly. In other words, you're the manager of this plane now. How domineering. So, she was forcing him to sign a labor contract. Domineering your sister. Who wants to be a manager? Retract the imprint. Immediately. This imprint cannot be retracted before I awaken again. Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. Awaken? What do you mean? Realm Spirit grinned with a satisfied look, yet his body began to turn transparent inch by inch. Hey. What's wrong with you? Her heart sank, and she grabbed onto his hand. Why did you suddenly turn transparent? It's nothing, she said with an indifferent look. This is very normal. How is it normal? You're about to disappear. Don't scare me. Hey. Though he was a little detestable, she really never thought that he would disappear. At most, I won't let you remove your shoe prints for now. I'll just be a manager and help you get your visa stamped. Yao. Realm Spirit held onto her hand. I only gained sentience and appeared in this world because of a plane crisis. Now that you've helped me restore the new heavenly Tao, there's naturally no longer a need for me to exist. What do you mean by no need? Don't you die. Don't worry, I'm the 3 realms. As long as the 3 realms remain, how can I possibly die? Realm Spirit said without a care. Now that the order has been rebuilt, there's no longer a need for Realm Spirit. I'll just return to my main body in the 3 realms. How is this any different from dying? Zhu Yao clenched her fists. Is it because I changed the heavenly Tao? Yao. It's fine. I've always been here. Realm Spirit smiled. Everything in the 3 realms is mine. Back then, when I was beyond cure, you were the one who helped me find the cure. Now, I'm just returning to health. Zhu Yao was silent for a moment. Do you have to disappear? I'm the incarnation of the old heavenly Tao. My return is the beginning of the new order's official establishment. His body grew even more transparent, and only a faint shadow could be faintly seen. So, I'm begging you, before the new realm spirit awakens, help me protect this world, all right? Zhu Yao was unable to describe what she was feeling in the depths of her heart. She simply felt a surge of bitterness. Are these your final words? You can say that. She smiled. This is my final request, all right? Zhu Yao took a step forward and hugged him. Only after taking a deep breath did she suppress the emotions in the depths of her heart. Realm Spirit, thank you. She was stunned for a moment, and then her smile grew even more brilliant, like the rising sun. How could Zhu Yao not be able to see through her true intentions of having her manage the three realms? She was the spirit of the three realms. The moment she disappeared, no one would have the ability to cross planes. In other words, she might never be able to return to her original world, let alone bring her master over. After all, if there were no flights, applying for a visa would be pointless. So, she entrusted the entire three realms to her and had her become the manager. This way, she would have the ability to cross planes. Yao Yao, Emin, are we still friends? Of course, we've always been. All right. Zhu Yao hugged him just like that, until his figure grew fainter and fainter. In the end, he turned into specks of light and disappeared before her eyes. She stood on the spot for a moment, before slowly regaining her senses. Suddenly, her heart felt a little empty. She could sense that this time, Realm Spirit had truly disappeared. No, it couldn't be said to have disappeared either. She had returned to her original body. Every single blade of grass, tree, and everything else in the three realms. Just like what she said, she was everywhere. However, she could no longer bicker with her. Speaking of which, Realm Spirit's actions sometimes made her feel disgusted, but in the end, it was all pardonable. Just like what she said, the three realms were heading towards collapse. She had merely asked for help, as a friend. Now that she thought about it, she had known her for 5 years in the modern era. She clearly had countless opportunities to allow her to cross over at any time, but she did not. Instead, she only allowed her to cross over after asking for her permission, though she did hide some things. She could understand those things now. If Realm Spirit had revealed her identity to her from the very beginning, she might not have been able to see this world clearly at all. She could only give her some suggestions as an outsider. She definitely wouldn't have been able to experience it as personally as she did now. Even if she really made a trip through the three realms, she would most likely only have the attitude of a gamer. In that case, the suggestions she could give would be limited as well. She really couldn't guarantee that she could completely rebuild the heavenly Tao of this world. However, Realm Spirit only had one chance. She was the spirit of the three realms, the embodiment of the heavenly Tao. If she rebuilt the heavenly Tao, she would definitely disappear. Realm Spirit had placed a huge bet on her. He had placed himself, and even all the living beings in this entire plane, on her. Even if she could not see the results now, she had placed all of her bets without any hesitation. Such a huge trust. How could she dare to let it down? So, for the sake of her friend, she could only continue to work for him. Zhu Yao took a deep breath. She carefully sensed the three realms seal in her primordial spirit, and in an instant, everything in the three realms was displayed in front of her. She instantly felt as though she could control everything. This was different from pure strength. This was a type of will that allowed him to control everything as he pleased. It was as though she was looking at the main engine of a game. All living beings entered the player accounts, while she entered the back end of the game. She could adjust any data. She could even change the game mode. Zhu Yao only looked at it for an instant and immediately retreated. This authority was too huge. She still had to slowly study it. She was really a little worried that she would change something. It would cause the entire game to collapse. This was something that even Realm Spirit did not dare to casually change back then. Naturally, she would not make any huge changes either. Back then, Realm Spirit had merely summoned the light of purification to eliminate resentment, and it had produced the opposite effect of a rumor in the realm of gods, such as the lightning divine tower. Instead, it caused the deities to be cleansed of their 7 emotions and 6 desires and enter the cycle of reincarnation. Furthermore, the new heavenly Tao had already been formed, and now was not the time to change it. It was better for her to guard it properly, and when she was in a good mood, she could just patch the remaining bugs. However, how was she going to find out which ones were bugs? Ting. Suddenly, a familiar electronic sound rang out. A ray of blue light suddenly flew out from the number 43 imprint in her primordial spirit. A conversation window instantly appeared in front of her. This time, there were more options and words on it. After taking a closer look, it was still a long form. On top of it, bold words were written. System new user registration. Below it were dozens of complicated options such as username, password, name, and so on. Zhu Yao. Was this a census? Wait a minute. She remembered that Realm Spirit had once said that this system was gifted to her by the manager of their plane. In an instant, a certain unknown being from Guogua's family flashed in her mind. The hell? So he was the one who made this thing? No way. I definitely have to report him when I return. Zhu Yao grudgingly filled in the form. In an instant, the screen flashed, and a few screens appeared in front of her. The images on them were all different, but they all had the same line of white words. Suspected target of bug. Temporarily not threatening. It seemed like this should be some sort of AI system that could predict and monitor the loopholes of the three realms. With a thought, the screen once again disappeared, returning to her primordial spirit. With this, she no longer had to worry about not being able to find bugs. She took a deep breath and suddenly felt a little heavy on her shoulders. Realm Spirit had already handed the three realms to her. She did not dare to guarantee that she could do it well, but she did not want to disappoint the trust that he had bet everything on. Clenching her fists, she would accept this opposition until the new Realm Spirit awakens. Wait a minute. Erase the dividing line first. She remembered. Realm Spirit seemed to have said that she was born as a spirit because the three realms were on the verge of collapse. Then, did the new Realm Spirit have to? Chapter 381. The Lightning Divine Tower had collapsed, and all the deities within the tower had been sent out. The divine realm had instantly descended into chaos. No one knew what had happened, but they all had a vague feeling that from now on, no one would be able to become a god. For immortals, this was a huge blow. Becoming a god was the lifelong pursuit of all immortals. Who wouldn't feel stifled if they lost their dream just like that? This was especially true for those who had entered the tower early. They had painstakingly climbed to the top 9 floors of the tower, and had thought that they would become gods after climbing one more floor. However, the tower had collapsed just like that, and everyone had been kicked out. But no one had the ability to put it back together. All the immortals were sullen and depressed. Since he could not find anyone to vent his anger on, he could only direct his anger towards the people of Lightning Divine Hall. In the past, no one in the Divine Realm dared to offend Lightning Divine Hall, other than the fact that the disciples of Lightning Divine Hall had high cultivation levels and were proficient in lightning-type arts with the strongest offensive power. The most important reason was because they were in charge of the Lightning Divine Tower. Now, the pagoda was gone, and so many ancestors had come out of the pagoda. Every one of them has a cultivation base that's heaven-defying. Any one of them could easily crush 10 Ascendant Immortals. Not to mention, the reason for the collapse of the Lightning Divine Tower was unknown, so the one who had to bear the blame was definitely the person in charge of the Lightning Divine Tower. Thus, every single one of them aimed their bristles at the Lightning Divine Hall. No matter if it was the disciples of demonic immortals, deity sects, or even wandering deities, all of them felt that Lightning Divine Hall should give them an explanation, and all of them came looking for them. Actually, they said they wanted an explanation, but who didn't want to take the opportunity to suppress him? After all, everyone knew that the reason why the Lightning Divine Hall was able to obtain its current status was because of its true capabilities. Although they had now lost the Lightning Divine Tower, with the aptitude of the disciples in the sect, it wouldn't take long for them to recover. If he didn't make a move now, he was afraid that he would be suppressed in the future. None of these people who entered the tower were willing to fall behind others. Ever since the beginning of the Divine Realm, this was the first time the three forces had joined forces and aggressively went to settle their debts with the Lightning Divine Hall. They carefully surrounded the entire Lightning Divine Hall. He even directly broke the lightning array outside. However, they never expected that the number of Lightning Divine Hall disciples who came forward to accept the challenge was actually more than 10 people. Furthermore, all of them had extraordinary cultivation bases. Even the weakest among them was an Ascendant Immortal. Apart from the current floor master who was leading the way, the rest of them were all above the 3rd floor. Especially the person next to the OP, whose cultivation was actually at the 10th floor. This was a cultivation that could only be obtained by entering the highest level of the Lightning Divine Tower. While the immortals were shocked, they could not help but feel sorry for him. He had already climbed 10 levels, but he still hadn't become a god. How unlucky was he? He was definitely the most miserable person in the pagoda. The immortals were a little wary, but they were not afraid. Although the cultivation of the 10th floor was powerful, there was only one person. There were over a dozen immortals on the 9th floor. The difference in cultivation between the inner and outer levels of the pagoda was not as great as the difference between realms. It was a world of difference. Once there were enough people, it was not impossible for them to fight someone of a higher cultivation level. At most, it would take a little longer. In this battle, the various sects would definitely win for sure, and Lightning Divine Hall would disappear from this world from now on. The deities were filled with confidence, and Lightning Divine Palace was ready for battle. Eugene could not help but feel a little worried as well. It had to be said that this was the greatest danger that Lightning Divine Hall was facing. Even the joy of reuniting with his sect could not suppress the heaviness in his heart. Most likely, his Lightning Divine Hall would not be able to escape today, unless a miracle happened. Then, a miracle really happened? Eugene did not even know what was going on. He simply saw the crowd of deities charging forward with killing intent, and the great battle was about to begin. The moment he picked up his sword, suddenly, a flash of light flashed past his eyes and instantly entered the center of Yu Yan's forehead. It was so fast that he did not even have the time to see it clearly. A symbol that he had never seen before suddenly appeared on Yu Yan's forehead: infinity. Yu Yan was startled as well. As though he had sensed something, he rubbed his forehead. Little Yin Yan. Just as he was about to ask, the crowd of deities had already attacked. Then, the situation reversed. An incomparable pressure instantly burst out from Yu Yan's body. The terrifying pressure enveloped everyone present, and they instantly felt as though the sky was collapsing. It was so strong that they could not even muster the will to resist. The immortals in the sky were like dumplings that were dropped into a pot. They all fell down with a few rumbling sounds. Every single one of them was buried in the ground, and they could not even move. This included the crowd of Lightning Divine Hall. The hell? Eugene wanted to curse out. Little Yin Yan. This daddy is one of us. Probably because they received his ridicule, the instant the crowd of Lightning Divine Hall were about to be buried, the pressure on their bodies disappeared. Yu Yan was the only one left in the sky. As usual, he stood there expressionlessly. However, behind his head, there seemed to be a faint golden halo that shone. His entire body was filled with brilliance, as though he was the legendary god of the 9 heavens. God? It was no wonder someone from Lightning Divine Hall had cultivated into a god and had yet to ascend to the realm of gods. In an instant, the crowd of deities felt their hearts crumbling. With such a terrifying pressure that resembled heavenly might, how the hell were they supposed to fight? He had 100 ways to make them unable to continue living. However, this was not the end. The entire Lightning Divine Hall suddenly began to shake. At the location of the Lightning Divine Tower, white light began to shine from the collapsed ruins, and the white crushed stones began to fly and assemble. Eugene, who had just flown into the sky, was startled. Could it be that the Lightning Divine Tower could repair itself? The stones piled up higher and higher, but they did not pile up into the shape of a tower. Instead, they gathered into a platform. The center of the platform was actually empty. White light shone at the center, as though it was a well of light. Looking from above, the shadows of the 3,000 mortal realms could be faintly seen. Rows of white talismans flashed in the surroundings. A gigantic white stone tablet was erected on the right side of the platform. A few rays of red light flashed on it, and 3 gigantic words appeared on it: Divine Punishment Platform. Eugene was stunned for a moment. It was actually Divine Punishment Platform. One was the Godly Ascension Tower, and the other was the Divine Punishment Platform. This change was a little huge. Little Yin Yan, what's going on? Explain yourself. I don't know either. Yu Yin shook his head. He simply felt that there was an additional unfamiliar power, as though it could stand above the crowd of deities. He was completely unaware of the sudden appearance of the divine punishment platform. Yu Yin frowned. A moment later, he turned to look at the dumplings on the ground. Scram! It was a simple and violent voice, yet it was like a thunderclap. It entered the ears of every single dumpling, causing their minds to tremble. Eugene was stunned. How long had it been since he entered the tower? When did little Yin Yin possess such a powerful cultivation? Why didn't he know about it? Little Yin Yin, where are you going? Before Eugene could even finish, he saw Yu Yin had already flown towards the lightning divine hall. Yu Yin did not stop and simply replied while flying. My disciple is about to return. I'm going to cook. Lightning Divine Hall crowd. The crusade against the Lightning Divine Hall ended in failure. For a moment, the various sects had no choice but to tuck their tails between their legs, afraid that the other party would kill their way in a moment of displeasure. Though the various sects and clans had returned from the Lightning Divine Tower, and their overall strength had increased by a large margin, they could not withstand the appearance of a godlike opponent with overwhelming strength. That terrifying strength, just by releasing his might. The crowd was already suppressed to the point where they could not even raise their heads. Those who went to find trouble back then were all people who had returned from the Lightning Divine Tower. Though that person had let them live back then, everyone could not help but feel uneasy in their hearts as they nervously waited for the other party to settle the score. Who knew that after waiting for several months, there was no movement from the Lightning Divine Hall at all. It was as though they had completely forgotten about this matter. In the beginning, the crowd was worried, anxious, and helpless, but later on, they calmly accepted it. Perhaps, the other party simply did not place this matter in his heart. With his strength, it was really possible that he did not place these people of the divine realm in his eyes. Amen. Though they felt a little stifled when they thought about it, at the very least, the crisis of the various sects had been resolved. Hence, everyone's tense heartstrings loosened. They calmly lived their own lives and busied themselves with mediating the internal conflicts. In the past, everyone had a common goal, so they could work together to defeat the boss. Now that the boss had leveled up, then the hidden dangers of the various sects would surface. Back then, there were quite a few deities who came out from the Lightning Divine Tower. Though these people had their own homes in name, they simply returned to their own sections. However, it must be known that these people were not easy to deal with. Coming out together did not mean that they entered together. Back then, these people were able to enter the Lightning Divine Tower, and they were all well-known figures. All of them were people who were used to giving orders. Then, the problem was, who would listen to whom? Since they were of the same sect, there had to be a hierarchy, right? Though strength could be used to determine who was stronger, these people did not live harmoniously in the tower. Either they had been separated for too long, and they basically did not know who was who, or they had enmity with each other in the tower. Without the common goal of the Lightning Divine Hall, the internal conflicts were instantly triggered. Almost every sect and clan had the same problem. Conversely, the demonic immortal continent was slightly better. At the very least, they were tied down by their bloodline. Under the suppression of their strength, they would at most have a few more duels, and would not cause any huge trouble. However, the deity practitioners were different. They plotted openly, and could be said to be displaying their own abilities. In an instant, the entire deity continent was in a foul atmosphere. A great war was about to break out, and no one was willing to submit to the other. A great chaotic war in the divine realm was about to break out. Suddenly, a voice transmission came from the sky. Cough, cough. Hey, can you hear me? This voice seemed to have broken through the air. It was clearly a female voice. The volume wasn't loud, but for some reason, it was clearly transmitted to every corner of the divine realm. In an instant, all the restless deities were dumbfounded as they listened to the voice transmission that could be heard everywhere. Greetings, friends of the divine realm. This is the advertisement department of the Lightning Divine Hall. Right now, I am issuing an urgent notice. In order to create a perfect divine realm, build a harmonious society, and maintain the continuous and stable development of the three realms. From today onwards, the Lightning Divine Hall High-Level Deity Citizen Court is officially established. This court is the highest legal institution in the Divine Realm and possesses the authority to punish and adjudicate all matters in the Divine Realm. The entire process will be fair and open, and the goal is to eliminate all evil in the Divine Realm. The first section of the first article of the first section of the Divine Realm law states, from today onwards, all citizens of the Divine Realm, regardless of sect or race, are prohibited from all acts of killing. Those who commit the crime of killing shall be punished with the highest punishment. They shall be escorted off the divine punishment platform, stripped of their divine bodies and stripped of their divine bones. They shall be banished from the mortal realm and reincarnated. Thus, Apui, hereby, respectfully, announced by the Advertisement Department of the Lightning Divine Hall. Year, month, day. Chapter 382. This heavenly voice came very suddenly, and it was even a female voice. The deities and their companions were all stunned. They only regained their senses after being stunned for a long while. When they carefully recalled the contents, the entire divine realm instantly exploded. What the hell was a high court? What was the authority to punish? And where was the divine punishment platform? Since when did Lightning Divine Hall care about these things? And they didn't even discuss it, hey? Were they trying to monopolize the divine realm? And what did they mean by forbidding all forms of killing? Although killing for no reason was still a minority in the divine realm. However, among those who could ascend and become deities, which one of them did not have blood on their hands? Forget about killing in the dark, even shattering one's soul to prevent one from reincarnating were too many to count. Things like killing for treasures were happening everywhere. How was it possible to forbid it with just a single sentence from Lightning Divine Hall? However, after the battle with Lightning Divine Hall, everyone knew that Lightning Divine Hall had produced a figure whose cultivation was comparable to a god. His might was still there. For a moment, the immortals all maintained a doubtful attitude. After all, cultivation wasn't easy. If their cultivation was really crippled and they were sent to the mortal world, they really couldn't guarantee that they could return. It was better to believe that it was true than not. The deities behaved themselves for a period of time. The various deity sects of various continents all banned and restricted their disciples. Even Scattering Alarms Hall, which was formed by wandering deities, was warned multiple times. The internal conflicts of the deity sects became much more low profile. They fought quite a bit with words, but no one actually took action. For a moment, the divine realm calmed down. But this calmness didn't last for long. As time passed, there were no other movements from Lightning Divine Hall. 3 months later, some people couldn't hold it in any longer and were faintly showing signs of relapsing. Another 3 months passed, and there were still no movements? The deities were relieved and went back to whatever they were supposed to be doing. They completely threw the strange, heavenly voice to the back of their minds and believed that everything was merely a trick of Lightning Divine Hall. They were just exaggerating. Controlling the entire divine realm was easier said than done. Furthermore, even if they committed murder, who would know? Could it be that Lightning Divine Hall could follow behind everyone and watch them every day? However, just as everyone relaxed and continued to level up, kill deities, and seize treasures, a new heavenly voice sounded from the horizon. Advent Cloud Hall Disciple Zhao Xiangyan, Phantasm Mountain Disciple Wei Juanxiang, Fluorescent Wind Sects Jibo, Qianning, Soaring Prophecy Palaces Chai Yunliang, and Loose Deity Dongfang Si. The above 6 people robbed the property of others and caused the death of the victim. They were judged guilty of murder. Tomorrow afternoon, you will receive your punishment at the Divine Punishment Platform of the Lightning Divine Hall. These words were spoken without hesitation. He had no intention of explaining further. While the immortals were shocked, they exploded in an instant. Not to mention that these people came from famous immortal sects. Just these few names alone were enough to make a name for themselves. 2 of them were people who once came from the Lightning Divine Hall and were rather reputable in the various deity sects. Even if there was a mistake, it was only an internal matter of the deity sect. On what basis did the lightning divine hall convict him just like that? Moreover, he had to remove his immortal bones and force him down to the mortal realm. How could this be? This won't do. Resolutely disagree. The various sects clamored in exasperation. They would never hand them over. Faintly, the sounds of another attack on Lightning Divine Hall could even be heard. But not long after, the various immortal sects checked and found that the 6 people had disappeared. Everyone was dumbfounded. Only then did they recall. The heavenly voice didn't ask them to hand over the person at all. They would do it themselves. What was even more shocking was that just before the heavenly voice rang, someone had seen these 6 people. But after the heavenly voice rang, they disappeared. What did this prove? It proved that the Lightning Divine Hall could bring 6 people away from different places without anyone noticing in 15 minutes. And no one noticed. An ability like this had simply surpassed the deity's imagination. The various immortal sects were a little afraid for a moment, and their thoughts of attacking the Lightning Divine Hall once again faded. Just like that, they quarreled and cursed for an entire day. On the afternoon of the second day, everyone headed towards the Lightning Divine Hall with different thoughts. This time, they weren't here to find trouble, but to see just how big this trouble was. Of course, there were even more people who harbored thoughts of snatching the person during the chaos. Among these people, there were 2 high deities who had entered the Lightning Divine Tower before. How could the deity sects be willing to give them up? After all, the heavenly voice said that the 6 people had committed murder, but evidence was needed for everything. Even the Lightning Divine Hall couldn't just toss people into the divine punishment platform so easily, right? The various deity sects had been in the divine realm for so many years, so they naturally had their own methods. As long as they refused to admit it, the Lightning Divine Hall wouldn't be able to do anything about it. The Lightning Divine Hall was magnanimous this time. They didn't stop them at all, and even generously removed the barrier, allowing the deities to freely enter and exit. However, when the crowd arrived at the so-called divine punishment platform, they were all dumbfounded. The rebuttals they prepared for an entire day were all swallowed back into their stomachs. It wasn't because they saw the legendary divine punishment platform, but because of the white stone wall on top of the divine punishment platform. It stood on the right side of the platform, and on it, 6 sets of images were being played. The main characters of the images were the 6 people who were tied up like dumplings using mystic arts. The images were all of the scenes of the 6 people killing people and stealing their treasures. The deity sects who were initially filled with confidence instantly became listless. They silently found a corner and stood there, pretending to be spectators. Other than the 6 people on top of the divine punishment platform, there were a dozen other people standing there. Other than the pink-clothed woman at the back, the others were the people who fought against the Lightning Divine Hall back then. Standing beside the woman was that person with unfathomable cultivation, who single-handedly threw a floor full of dumplings. However, the strange thing was, the one in charge here wasn't him. The one standing in the middle was instead the previous hall master, Eugene. Eugene didn't seem to be in a good mood. With a face full of resentment, he completely ignored the increasing number of spectators, let alone receiving them warmly. Raising his head to look at the time, he simply said with a deep voice, "It's time." Then, with a wave of his sleeves, he straightforwardly pushed the 6 people into the divine punishment platform. Before the 6 people could even let out a scream, they disappeared without a trace. Their auras were instantly severed as well. The deities felt very complicated. What are you guys still waiting here for? Eugene's tone was extremely nasty. He coldly swept his gaze across the crowd. Do you guys want to stay for a meal? The crowd's expressions stiffened. Some rode on their swords, while others rode on their clouds, and they left with their tails between their legs. The questions they prepared for many days, they couldn't even voice out. What the heavenly voice said was all true. The Lightning Divine Hall really did have a divine punishment platform. As long as they entered, they could send people back to the furnace to be reforged. Furthermore, the heavenly might on the platform was something that even the Lightning Divine Tower of the past could not compare to. It must be known that heavenly might would only appear in places that contained a powerful heavenly Tao. Since the divine punishment platform possessed heavenly might, it proved that it was born in response to the heavenly Tao. Since the lightning divine hall had never interfered with the matters of the various sects, for them to suddenly do something like this, they must have comprehended the heavenly Tao. The deities could oppose the lightning divine hall, but who had the ability to oppose the heavenly Tao? Hence, the divine realm's second operation to oppose the lightning divine hall was launched. Once again, it was declared a failure. Furthermore, after this incident, the deities understood that the ban wasn't a joke. The death rate in the divine realm began to plummet, and the divine realm began to develop towards harmony. Except for one person. Why is it me? Why is it me again? Why is it me again? Eugene felt that his entire person wasn't feeling well. When the ancestors of the other sects returned, they were all busy fighting for power. Why was the lightning divine hall the exact opposite? Why is the lightning divine hall still under my control? Even if it's in terms of seniority, from head to tail, from tail to head, it wouldn't even be my turn, right? It won't even be my turn, right? He wanted to cry but had no tears. He pulled the person next to him who had the highest seniority. Old ancestor, you have already come out from the tower. We are all your disciples and grand-disciples. No matter what, the position of floor master should be returned to you. Elder ancestor smiled and stroked his beard, patting his shoulder. I say, little Jean, although I am the oldest here, my cultivation is not the highest. Besides, I'm getting on in years. Do you have the heart to let me continue working? How could he bear to do that? Furthermore, since the divine punishment platform has appeared in my lightning divine hall, it's impossible for the divine punishment platform to appear here. It must be heaven's will. With a stern expression, he said. Furthermore, didn't little Yin and little Yao say that the heavenly Tao they sensed is to reform the order of the divine realm? My lightning divine hall is duty-bound to do so. They'll sense it. What does it have to do with me? Why did he have to execute it? He felt like crying. Zhu Yao immediately leaned over. Who asked you to be our wise and mighty floor master? If I don't hand over the responsibility of protecting the immortal world to you, who else will it be? Now the building is gone. Where's the floor master? Air. That made sense. Why don't I change my name to station master? His face darkened further. You're the pillar. Your entire family is made up of pillars. No, in any case, I've had enough of being the floor master. Little Yin Yin, the divine seal is on your head, and your cultivation is the highest. No matter what, you're the one in charge. He shifted his target to Yu Yin, determined not to take on this burden. He wanted to be free. He wanted to be free. He wanted to be unrestrained. No. Why? Yu Yin glanced at him and coldly said, You can't beat me. He got shot. The hell? He hated facts like this the most. Then why don't little grand disciple know? Why? You can't beat my master. The hell? The husband and wife are here to bully me. Master, let's go. Otherwise, we won't make it in time. We're about to close the door. Zhu Yao pulled her master and turned to leave. Yu Yin nodded and held onto her hand. Eugene was startled for a moment. Wait a minute. Where are you guys going? Civil Affairs Bureau. Civil Affairs Bureau? What secret realm was that? Before he could ask, the two of them had already completely disappeared. Changing the heavenly Tao was equivalent to changing the main engine of the game, and everything would be changed. The divine realm's lightning divine tower had disappeared, but a divine punishment platform that maintained order had appeared. The changes in the mortal realm, however, could not be seen with the naked eye. Due to the closing of the heavenly door, no one in the 3,000 worlds was able to break through the demigod realm and ascend. However, they slowly realized, ever since they built their foundation, there was an additional trial of the heart during every advancement. The content of the heart trial varied from person to person, and it usually came along with the tribulation lightning. There was only a single meaning behind it. Do not forget your original intentions. Other than that, every time a person advanced into a realm, there would be a trial of karma. It would cause people to enter the illusion of karma. The evil karma they had created in the past would all receive the evil karma within the illusion, and they would not be able to escape from the illusion. Instead, those with pure hearts could easily pass through it. Furthermore, this trial was comparable to a heart demon. Medicine was ineffective, and if one passed through it, their cultivation would naturally increase. If they failed to pass through it, they would lose all of their cultivation, and in serious cases, they would lose their lives in the cycle of reincarnation. Their cultivation had suddenly reached an extremely high level of difficulty. Practitioners called these two trials as cultivation of the heart. Only when one's state of mind and cultivation grew at the same time would they be able to advance. Zhu Yao suddenly understood why Realm Spirit had to close all of the heavenly gates. If practitioners could not forget their original intentions and not care about karma, then how could they not understand the path of ascension? The heavenly gates were closed, but as long as they understood the path of ascension, they could open the gate of ascension themselves. However, they would have to go through more hardships and spend more time exploring. Especially for these practitioners who were in the period when the heavenly Tao had just been updated. However, the current 3 realms had plenty of time. The modern era, 2 years later. Master, add 2 more dishes. Zhu Yao put down the phone in her hands, turned around, and shouted towards the kitchen. Guogua, come over for dinner later. Imin, the person in the kitchen, nodded. Zhu Yao looked around. Where's Yuing? He was still here earlier. He went to buy soy sauce. Yu Yin casually replied. Zhu Yao was a little surprised. He took the initiative to buy soy sauce. Thinking back, when she first brought Yuing to this world, probably because the environment was too unfamiliar, he followed her like a little tail, just like how he did when he was young. He was completely unlike her master, who had a strong sense of curiosity. He wanted to dismantle everything he saw. However, 2 years had passed, and Yuing had gotten a lot better. Now, he could even leave the house by himself. Yu Ying's problem. She had always known about it, and had thought of many ways to solve it. However, she was not a professional, after all. However, there were professionals in this world. Back then, when she decided to apply for a travel permit for him, she had considered this point as well. Hence, the moment she arrived here, she brought him to see a psychiatrist several times. She had also crammed a lot of psychological knowledge, and only then did she slowly adjust Yu Ying's extreme and stubborn personality. Although he still did not like to talk to others, at the very least, he did not completely reject everything in the outside world. He was becoming more and more like a real little brother. Even her Empress Dowager liked Yuing more. She loved him as though he was her own son. Yet, she was filled with disdain towards her, as though she was the one who was picked up. Yu Ying and Yu Yan's identity problem. It was solved by the manager here, with Guogua's godly assistance. The other party agreed without even blinking. This matter proved how important it was to have a good gay friend. The matters in the cultivation world were more or less settled. With the Lightning Divine Hall as a judicial organization in the divine realm, the death rate had plummeted. There were very few cases of people killing others for their treasures anymore. Furthermore, the chances of her master appearing had decreased as well. Basically, he was an existence akin to a mascot of the divine realm. Occasionally, when he met a stubborn individual, he would only appear to show his face. There were fewer battles in the divine realm. Although she could not guarantee that this group of people who were used to killing would truly turn over a new leaf, at the very least, they looked more like deities. Compared to her master, Yu Ying was walking the path of an idol, just like what Realm Spirit had said back then. The changes in the heavenly Tao had extreme kindness, which was equivalent to extreme evil appearing as well. If there were deities, there would be devils. As the final boss of all devils, Yuing had never appeared in front of the devils. Instead, he would directly pass down his devilish aura, allowing everyone to know of the existence of a devil god. He had become a worship-like existence, yet no devil could disobey him, just like the bloodline inheritance of demonic beasts. As for Zhu Yao herself, she was still rushing to the front lines to fix bugs, and the bugs she was fixing were all left behind by Realm Spirit back then. In the beginning, she was most likely busy to death. Only recently did she slowly stabilize. It had been a long time since the bug detection system had made a sound. Yow yow. Someone knocked on the door. So fast, she had just hung up the phone when Zhu Yao immediately opened the door. Guogua, you. Before she could even finish, Guogua had already walked in and pulled her into the house. Her brows were tightly furrowed, and she was even faintly carrying a hint of anger. Yao Yao, I will be staying here for a few days. I won't be returning for now. Zhu Yao was startled. What happened? Does that person in your house know? That manager in her house was not someone to be trifled with. Don't mention it. I want to stay here peacefully for 2 days. I don't want to see him. You two quarreled? Guogua glared at her. Do you think I can quarrel with him? That was true. That person in her house was a typical wife-slave, and he was even the type that did not care about integrity at all. Every time he looked at Guogua, it was as though he would kneel down and lick her every second. Then why are you here? Guogua picked up the cup of water on the coffee table and downed it in one gulp. Zhu Yao then refilled her cup of water and poured herself a cup as well. He brought someone back, Guogua said with a strange expression. Zhu Yao's heart sank. Male or female? She pondered for a moment, and only after a while did she say, Female, I think. The hell? He cheated on you? Zhu Yao suddenly stood up. This old lady here is going to castrate him. No. Guogua's expression turned even stranger. He said that's his child. Child? He was married before? No. Guogua said with a serious expression. What he meant was, that's the child of him and me. Zhu Yao was startled and could not help but reach out to touch her belly. You. When did you give birth? Why didn't she know? They were still shopping yesterday, and she actually couldn't tell. Guogua slapped her hand away. I haven't given birth yet. Then where did the child come from? Wait a minute. Now? Zhu Yao suddenly widened her eyes. You can't be saying that's your future child, right? And then she nodded. I don't know where he saw the phrase marriage after childbirth, but he thought that I would marry him the moment he had a child. And then, the hell, something like that could even happen. Guogua was an unmarried person. This was something she knew. In order to chase after his wife, that person had really gone all out. She needed to drink a cup of water to calm her nerves. However, when she thought about his identity, it wasn't impossible for him to control time to meet his future daughter. You don't believe that's your child? I do. She nodded. Then why are you hiding here? The corner of her lips twitched. Turning around, she took out a round object from the bag at the side and carefully passed it to her. The main point is, the child looks like this. Zhu Yao sprayed out a mouthful of warm water. Cuckoo. You gave birth to a ball. No. Guogua shook her head and explained with a stern look. I didn't give birth to it. He gave birth to it. What about it? He gave birth to it? Him? Could she be referring to the he in the word person? Heavens! Was this still the earth she lived on? Urgent. I'm waiting online. Zhu Yao felt her mind was a little messed up, but Yuing returned with a bottle of soy sauce. Big sis. The moment his words fell, the round ball that Guogua was hugging suddenly flashed with a white light, and it began to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it turned from a rubber ball into a blue ball. With a puff, it bounced up and fell down. Baby. Guogua was shocked and hurriedly went to hug it. At the same time, the figure of the man from Guogua family flashed, and he suddenly appeared in the house. Just as he was about to catch it, it suddenly turned around and rolled towards Yuing. With a paw sound, it bumped into his leg and stopped. Immediately after, a cracking sound could be heard. That ball actually split open, and a white and tender little claw suddenly reached out, firmly grabbing onto the corner of Yu Ying's pants. A tiny head popped out from within, and with a clear voice, it called out towards Yuing. Daddy, everyone. They all turned to look at Guogua. Guogua glared at the person at the side. What are you looking at? Didn't you give birth to this child? Manager. Zhu Yao. Ying. Yin. Where's the soy sauce? Why did she suddenly have a premonition that a storm was about to come? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.